Alrighty, greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Kiorkof, and welcome to our Friday afternoon live stream for Week 1 of the 2024 fantasy football season. We're just a couple hours away from, of course, witnessing the Philadelphia Eagles take on the Green Bay Packers, and it should be a fun, exciting game. Based on Vegas's overall numbers, this should be a potential shootout. Last night almost became a shootout. Man, let's talk about last night really quickly, because I know many of you are already in the live chat, asking away, Andrew, what happened last night? What are your thoughts regarding, what transpired between the Baltimore Ravens and, of course, the Kansas City Chiefs? So, of course, over the course of today's episode or / live stream, I will be answering questions to the best of my ability for the next 3 hours until kickoff between the Green Bay Packers and Philadelphia Eagles. Before we get into all that, putting together pick'em slips, answering as many questions as possible, I just want to go ahead and first and foremost give you guys my thoughts in regards to what happened last night and how we will continue on going forward. So first and foremost, let's talk about, almost the second question of today's live stream was about Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews. So let's start with the Baltimore Ravens. First and foremost, Lamar Jackson, incredible game. But the biggest impact he had was rushing. Incredible game of over 100 rushing yards. We'll take that every single week. It's not going to happen every single week, but if it can, beautiful. As for Derrick Henry, obviously the game script led to the fact that Lamar Jackson was going to throw the ball 40 plus times. Usually when they're in losing game scripts, it leads to that overall, turnout. The fact of the matter is, going forward, the Baltimore Ravens are going to win a vast majority of their games. Derrick Henry will be more implicated within the offense in terms of overall touches going forward. And when you take on the Kansas City Chiefs, as good of a defense they are, it is going to lead to having to abandon the run game at times. Now let's go to Zay Flowers. Again, great amount of touches. We take it. Obviously, we would have loved him to have caught that touchdown if Lamar Jackson was to hit him in the back of the end zone at the end of the game. No big deal. But then let's get to the meat and potatoes. Let's talk about Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. Okay, so I went ahead and I watched this game and I watched it again just to make sure. So Mark Andrews, first and foremost, played more snaps than Isaiah Likely. Just putting that into perspective. He even ran more routes, yet he only had 2 targets, 14 receiving yards in a lousy game. On top of that, Isaiah Likely, 12 targets, 9 catches, 100 yards, and a touchdown. If his shoe size was one size smaller, probably scores a second touchdown in that game. It is evident that the Mark Andrews era is beginning to end. It's getting there. What Mark Andrews really was for this offense was a red zone threat. That is primarily what his entire role was. Sure, he would be able to play and get some yardage between the 20s, but where he excelled more than any other tight end over the course of the last couple years is touchdowns. And he's been the number 1 target getter within the red zone for the Baltimore Ravens since 2019, every single year, even last year. And, after that Cincinnati Bengals game, he missed the last 6 games of the season, yet he still was number 1 amongst all Ravens in terms of red zone targets. But again, once Mark Andrews went down with that injury last season, it really did give this offense a chance to look at Isaiah Likely. And even though Isaiah Likely, didn't have that kind of a level of workload last season when Mark Andrews was absent, he was averaging 4 targets, 3 receptions, 43 receiving yards, nearly a touchdown per game on average from weeks 14 through the NFL playoffs of last year, 11 fantasy points per game, but 12 targets, 9 receptions, 111 receiving yards. Those are numbers that we did not anticipate. Quite frankly, I don't know if anybody anticipated those level of numbers. Now, this isn't to say that Mark Andrews is completely done. Again, he still ran 59 routes. He still played 59 of the 80 overall snaps, so he played more snaps than Isaiah Likely. He ran 38 routes, which, again, not a bad number. He's still going to be implicated for, 13 run blocking snaps, 3 pass blocking snaps. Isaiah Likely, 14 run blocking snaps, 3 pass blocking snaps. They're in the similar range. Just a lot of the opportunities went towards Isaiah Likely, and the most valuable opportunities at the tight end position being targets in the red zone, Isaiah Likely had 3 of them. Mark Andrews, the goose egg. So as we progress, we're hoping that maybe Mark Andrews will get more utilization, but your number 1 waiver wire, if you're looking for a tight end, is abso-freaking-lutely going to be Isaiah Likely, because it seems like going forward, he is the preferred target of the 2, which is unfortunate because many of us spent really high draft capital on Mark Andrews, and if you're able to recoup the value with Isaiah Likely, we'd be pretty good, we'd be pretty well off going forward for the remainder of the season. Now, if we jump to the other side of this conversation in regards to the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes had another one of his mediocre performances. Unfortunate. Obviously, Juju Smith-Schuster could have caught that touchdown on the goal line. unfortunately wasn't able to pull that down. There were a couple dropped passes from Pacheco that could have led to a touchdown. Samaje Perine, it happens. It is just, the nature of the game. Travis Kelce looked cooked. I mean, he looked cooked out there. Him and Mark Andrews were shells of themselves. And maybe it's the age catching up, or it's the fact that they have younger pieces within these offenses running within the slot role. Isaiah Likely for the, of course, Ravens, and Rashee Rice dominating within the slot position for the Kansas City Chiefs. He's pretty much running the Travis Kelce route tree, but he's executing it at an even greater level because of his youth and his ability to move and make plays after the catch. So he's obviously dominating there. Xavier Worthy, a guy that, like I told you guys yesterday, he was my 44th ranked wide receiver. And we talked about it. Yes, he does have the ability to go for upside plays. I just didn't think 3 touches would turn to 2 touchdowns. 20 fantasy points on 3 touches is very difficult to accomplish. But again, when you have the explosive playmaking ability, it's always a possibility within the potential game. Now, once we continue on in the future and Marquise Hollywood-Brown returns, and a guy like Xavier Worthy doesn't have to match up against Marlon Humphreys on the outside every single play. I mean, he played on the outside 60% of the time, inside within the slot role with I think about 40% of the overall routes that he ran. He only ran 24 routes last night. So again, he didn't play that much, but when given opportunity, he delivered. And if he's going to be taking on number 2 corners going forward, they may look to continue to just, give him those touches every game. If it leads to a touchdown, beautiful. If it doesn't, again, this is the volatility of Kansas City wide receivers. Obviously, Rashee Rice will not experience that because he will be the number 1. But these other pieces could go for 20. They could go for 2 in a given week. We'll just have to wait and see how that transpires. Pacheco had a good volume of touches. Samaje Perine doesn't look like to be the number 2. Pacheco, again, we want to see him with more touches, specifically getting like 18 to 20 per game. But again, Andy Reid doesn't love to run the ball. That is a given. Or if he does love to run the ball, it's going to be with a little bit of a rotation where you get Carson Steele, Samaje, a couple touches, maybe 1 or 2 per game. But otherwise, I like the overall production of Isaiah Pacheco, and luckily, he was able to get that touchdown. Okay, that pretty much covers it. The kicking game was good yesterday. Justin Tucker, and of course, Harrison Butker delivered for us. But outside of that, those are my initial thoughts. We're hoping that, of course, we don't find so many surprises going forward, but expect it. Expect it to happen. For the remainder of week 1, expect to see a lot of potential surprises in which players that we did not anticipate to be studs becoming studs. I mean, what was Isaiah Likely in terms of his ADP? Like tight end 28? When things like this happen, the whole point of fantasy football and the reason why we talk about it so often is because being able to adapt is more valuable than the strong draft that you may have had. Adaptation to the weeks and being able to adjust to what is currently happening really is going to be the biggest difference maker as to whether or not you're going to find success this season. So obviously Monday's waiver wire episode that goes live every single Monday is going to be interesting. I know that someone in the chat, Jimmy, said lively is lively. You mean likely? Likely is a league winner. It's potential. There's potential for that. I mean, again, imagine being able to pick up a tight end off of your waiver wire. You spent 0 draft capital for. Let's say you were someone who was like, you know what, I'm going to wait. I'm going to just draft Brock Bowers. We'll see what happens. And then you're like, wait, I have number 1 wave priority this weekend. Like I don't have, there's no fab. Like I can just pick this guy up and we're good to go. Now there's going to be other options. Just wait. Last season it was Puka and Kyron in week 1. We'll see who else joins likely as the most quote unquote likely, for the lack of a better term, to be the number 1 waiver pickups in the given week. Okay. As we continue, we'll continue to talk about the, I don't even know what the heck happened last night. What I do know is that, yes, some of those penalties were god-awful. I don't understand why the league is cracking down on offensive linemen. Oh, illegal formation. Bruv, he's 6'9". He needs to sit in a comfortable stance because they're pass rushing 5 yards outside of him. Anyway, we'll get to that as we progress. I want to thank you guys for joining us today. Again, we'll be here for the next couple hours answering questions. If you guys haven't yet already, click the like button down below. Absolutely continues to support the channel. First and foremost, want to get to answering some of these super chat questions that just arrived. So let's go ahead and check those out right now. So let's begin with the first question of today. We have TP615, who says the following. Thank you, TP, by the way. Via super chat says, Najee Harris or Jaden Reed in a full PPR. All right, let me go ahead and let's check the rankings, and we will know right now. So in a full PPR, And then where's Reed at? Yeah, we'll take Jaden Reed over Najee Harris this week, especially considering we got word confirmation that Isaiah Rodgers, one of the starting cornerbacks of the Philadelphia Eagles, will not be playing today. That is obviously a bonus to the potential of someone like Jaden Reed. I mean, potential bonus to all of the offensive pieces of the Green Bay Packers. But in terms of injury reports, just really quickly, just want to also mention this. So via Green Bay, prior to this game, we do have a confirmation that, well, yeah, we'll see exactly how it transpires. Both Emmanuel Wilson and Marshawn Lloyd, both of the running backs that are number 2 or potentially number 2 behind Jacobs, are both questionable to play. As to whether they suit up, to be determined. But that already just kind of solidifies even more that Josh Jacobs is going to get himself a vast majority of the overall workload, which is great. Additionally, Tucker Kraft is also questionable. So for those of you who are in a position to potentially start a guy like Luke Musgrave, I don't think you will be, but if you are, the Eagles allowed, I think, like top 10 points to opposing tight ends last season on a per game average. If Tucker Kraft is going to potentially miss, it makes Luke Musgrave a far better potential play going into the given week. Additionally, the Underdog would be an even better play based on his current numbers as it sits. As for the Philadelphia Eagles, like I mentioned, Isaiah Rodgers is out, one of their starting quarterbacks. And of course, Devin White, one of their starting interior linebackers, is also going to be out. So 2 of their starting defenders, which makes, of course, the efforts of the Green Bay Packers potentially that much easier. Going forward, we have another question from Cooper, who says, via Super Chat, Godwin or Devontae Smith in a full PPR? Ooh, here we go. Let's check this out. I mean, quite frankly, I want to play them both if we can. Let's see. Let's Control F this. Devontae. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Let's go here. I need to open up this other tab because for some reason this web page for me does not want. Okay, that's draft rankings. That's why. Here we go. Full PPR. We go over here. Wide receiver. Yeah, I currently do have Chris Godwin ahead of Devontae Smith. I'd like to play them both. I don't know what kind of a team you have to where you have multiple studs at this capacity. Obviously, Godwin isn't, I guess, this level of a stud every single week. Primarily is because of the matchup against Washington's terrible secondary that we're trusting him with this high of a rank. But yeah, either way, I'd love to start them both. I think they're both going to be great plays. We'll talk about Devontae Smith in terms of a Underdog pick'em going forward. But yeah, I would take Chris Godwin there. Let's see here. We had another super chat question come in from Carlos, who says, should I trade Henry for someone like Jacobs? If you would like to, you can. I mean, here's the thing. Henry's already played. Jacobs is going to play tonight. The fantasy manager that's probably going to, consider trading Josh Jacobs is going to be dependent on what he does tonight. So if you're capable of doing so, you can. Again, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of Derrick Henry's usage last night was very dependent on the game script. The Baltimore Ravens, more often than not, are in a lot of winning game scripts and a lot of leads over the course of the season. Only against Kansas City are they ever put on the back foot in these kind of scenarios. And, when we look at like the upcoming schedule here, let's see. Okay, let's pull this up. So for future weeks here, we have the Las Vegas Raiders. Again, that should be a win. They have the Cowboys. They have the Bills. They have the Bengals. Okay. Now we're getting some shootouts coming in here. Then the Commanders, Tampa Bay. Dude, they play against like 5 playoff teams in a row almost to an extent. They play against the Cowboys, the Bills, the Bengals, the Buccaneers, and the Browns. If it was my positioning, I would say I would have probably wanted Jacobs more than Henry in a PPR format. If you can get away with it, go for it. Count Butt sends in a super chat, says James Conner or DJ Moore in the flex. I think it's very much so dependent on scoring format. Guys, if you guys send in a super chat, please do me a favor and include your scoring format. As it currently stands, let's see, where do we have them accordingly? James Conner. Okay. And then DJ Moore. So if we check that, scroll over. According to how I currently have it, I would be playing DJ Moore in a full PPR. If it's a half PPR, I could consider the James Conner play. The only issue with James Conner this weekend is based on what the overall Vegas line is set. The Bills are a massive favorite. So they're going to be ahead for majority of this game. And very similar to how Derrick Henry was used last night, we may see a lack of utilization out of James Conner, primarily because he doesn't get much receiving utilization out of this backfield, specifically from last season. And on top of that, if they're losing, there's less of a incentive to run the ball when they need to pass for the entire second half. What's up, BZ? So at this point, I'll take the DJ Moore out of the two. Moving on, we have Carlos, which says, okay, so we took care of Carlos's question. I think Jesse is next on the list. He is. Jesse says, if T. Higgins is out, do I go Mostert or Keenan Allen in a full PPR? Great question. Keenan Allen did have a full practice earlier today. Let me think where I would have him. So if he does end up playing, do I play Keenan Allen? Okay, so so here's the thing. Thursday's rankings that I had was under the assumption that Keenan Allen was potentially going to be a lesser option if he did not fully practice today. I haven't even taken into full account. Let's see here. Where do we have Mostert in comparison? And then where can I put Keenan Allen? As of right now in a full PPR, I'm going to venture to say that I might have, by the time I get to Sunday, I probably will have Keenan Allen ranked higher. So that's kind of where I'm leaning in the direction of as of this current moment in time, considering he had a full practice designated and the full PPR format. Thank you. AJ sends in a super chat, says, I need help. Murray or Goff? And would you trade Ridley for Kincaid if my tight end is Schultz? Yes, I would trade Ridley for Kincaid, and I would do it in 0.01 seconds. So as for your primary question, Murray or Goff, I do prefer Murray because of the negative game script, the rushing upside additionally, and the potential which, when we think about the Detroit Lions offense, it's implied that there's going to be a lot of rushing touchdowns within that offense and for that team, because that's really what they're built on. An incredibly elite offensive line and 2 stud running backs. So if I was to have to really project who's going to be the higher scorer potentially between the two, I'm leaning towards Murray because of that rushing upside and because of the negative game script effectively. When we finish off your final question, I won't be able to get likely. Also got London in all 4 leagues. You got London in all 4 leagues. Well, we got to hope that London doesn't start off like he did week 1 of last year. If I'm not mistaken, last season, week 1, Drake London had like 2 targets, 0 receptions. Pretty interesting week. I'm sure that is not going to take place week 1 of this year with Kirk Cousins at quarterback. But yeah, Murray, and make that trade for Kincaid. AJ, thank you. Alex Songgrass says, evening, my friend. Start Seattle defense or Vikings defense. I currently have Seattle ahead of the Vikings defense, but they are both within my top 12. Moving on to your next question, standard. Do I start Michael Pittman Jr., Jamar Chase, Godwin, Adams? Start 2 of the potential 4 wide receivers. Got it. Jamar Chase coming out and saying that he is a game time decision on as to whether or not he is going to play, when we already see that there is a doubtful designation on T. Higgins, leads, again, first and foremost, if anybody is out there thinking to themselves, how is T. Higgins already injured? Please, okay? Understand that T. Higgins in injuries is as synonymous as James Conner in injuries. It's not a matter of like if they're getting injured, it's when they get injured. And it's an unfortunate reality, right? It's just, they're very talented players, but they just can't stay healthy. And unfortunately, the fact of the matter is that we may be having to pick up guys like Andre Yoshivas, which again could be a decent play this week. Trenton Irwin, Jermaine Burton. Those may be the 3 starting wide receivers of the Cincinnati Bengals in week 1, if in fact Jamar Chase does not go. So if Jamar Chase doesn't go, in your situation here, Alex, Devontae Adams is number 1. And I would probably say, if you're playing in a standard format, 0 points per reception, you would probably play Pittman as your number 2. If it was a full PPR or even half PPR, I'd feel far more comfortable with the Godwin and Adams situation in that scenario. But as for Chase, as it currently stands, I'd venture to say he's probably going to play. As to how much he plays, we cannot even predict. I would hope that he could play more than 60% of the snaps, but considering, again, he hasn't had an entire training camp, it leads me to believe that there's a higher likelihood that, again, he most likely won't be at a full capacity. So with that in itself, yes, I want to start Chase because I don't want to have Chase go for 20 on my bench. If Chase is going and there is no T. Higgins, we're probably playing Chase and Adams in a standard league. And I'm just letting it ride because that's the investment I've made. But yeah, if he doesn't go, you play Pittman and Adams in a standard format. Thank you. Jackie sends in a super chat, says T. Higgins is likely out. That's correct. Jaden Reed or Swift in a full PPR. I believe I have Swift ahead of him. And I don't think it's going to change. If you guys heard Eberflus, the current head coach of the Chicago Bears, if you guys heard his press conference, I believe it was earlier today. I was going through injury reports. I was also listening to a couple press conferences. He specifically said, like, we're moving away from the running back by committee situation, and we brought in DeAndre Swift to solve that for us. Like, we want a home run hitting running back. These are his words, not mine. Like, he put this together, and from my perspective, I'm sitting here thinking, all right, well, if that's the case, when you take on the Tennessee Titans, you're going to run the ball a pretty good amount of times. Not only that, when you have someone of the capacity of DeAndre Swift, who has the opportunity of receiving work, we have seen in the past at the Detroit Lions, obviously last year with the Eagles, not as likely because the quarterback position has the ability to scramble when there is a clear correlation. Quarterback scrambles leading to less targets for the respective running backs. So if in fact we're going to be in a situation, which of course we'll see a lot more utilization within the receiving game for someone like Swift, the expectation would be that he'd be a far better play than he was last season, which again, he was still top 24. To answer your question, end all be all, I would play Swift this week. Mike Goldberg sends in a super chat. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Says, PPR, Reed, Kirk, or Singletary? I need one. The old classic Devin Singletary, Kirk Reed question. As it currently stands, I kind of want to play either Christian Kirk or Devin Singletary. I think the sheer volume of Devin Singletary probably getting himself somewhere between 12 plus touches, maybe 4 receptions. I think the sheer volume of opportunity for Singletary is more appealing to me than the alternative options. Let's see, where do I have them accordingly ranked? Okay, that's fine. Yeah, they're so damn close in terms of my rankings. Let's see. If I go to half PPR, what was your ranking again? Let's see here. It's full PPR. Okay. So if we look up Singletary in comparison to Kirk, yeah, it's close. It's probably Kirk in a full PPR. If it was a half PPR, I would very much so just take the volume of the running back, and that's typically like the rule of thumb. But in this circumstance, let's take Christian Kirk there out of those 3 options. Thank you, Jackie. Mike, I already did Jackie's question, which was Reed. Yeah, never mind. So Swift for Jackie, Kirk for Mike. Thank you. Tommy Vu says, start 1, Terry McLaurin or Jerome Ford in a full PPR. The full PPR format leads me towards most likely wanting to play Terry McLaurin out of the 2. Jerome Ford will catch the ball probably 3 times this game, which again is relatively good value. But between the 2 of them, I'm leaning towards the wide receiver play. Let's see here. Mark24 says, should I trade Jordan Love for Breece Hall? It's a 2 quarterback league. I have Stroud and Goff. My other 2 running backs are David Montgomery and Alvin Kamara. Yes, I would make that trade. Especially if it's a 4-point per passing touchdown league, I would absolutely make that trade. Give me Breece Hall, trade away Jordan Love. Do it now before the game starts, 24, Mark. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Is there any other questions that I missed in regards to super chats? Let me refresh this really quickly. Yes, there are. So let's get to those right now. Really quickly before we get to that. Again, a reminder, I'm going to be here until kickoff of this game. As soon as the kickoff takes off, I will then disappear and perhaps be back later tonight if in fact something crazy goes on in this game. But outside of that, tomorrow I'll also be live streaming here on the channel from 1 to 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'll also be here on Sunday morning with updated rankings on screen from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you guys are interested in asking questions around those times, beautiful. Be sure to swing on by. If not, if you want to go ahead and sleep in on Sunday mornings, you can also check out, of course, Underdog Fantasy, which you can see to the left side of the screen. If you sign up using code Andrew and make a first-time deposit minimum of $10, you'll get my rankings sent to you from my email directly to yours every single Sunday morning. These rankings are by position, by tier, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, kicker, defense, along with flex. So half PPR, full PPR, all-encompassing rankings if you're interested, so you can set your lineups, or you can check out Patreon. All of that content and much more, and the ability to ask me unlimited questions are available there. But if you do sign up via Underdog, we can take advantage of this later today. Speaking of, yesterday's overall play went pretty well. I mean, this was the Kelsey play, and I took a little while to figure it out. And during the live stream yesterday, I was like, all right, there's no way that Rashee Rice is going, less than 6 receptions, or even 5 receptions. Derrick Henry, anytime rushing touchdown, that's pretty much implicated, especially considering the offense and the fact that they gave their running backs so many touches, especially down in the red zone. Inside the 5-yard line, they were number 3 amongst all teams in red zone rushing attempts. So again, Derrick Henry there, and then of course Travis Kelce. it had me sweating for a couple seconds there. I was like, maybe he doesn't get a single yard. He got 24, so he saved this at the end of the day. We'll go ahead and put together another pickup slip later today, but for now, again, if you sign up, you can take advantage of this later tonight. Thank you. Okay, let's get to these questions, shall we? We had a question that came in from Caden Wiltz, who says, Higgins is out, Swift or Godwin in a half PPR? In a half PPR, I'd probably play, it's probably DeAndre Swift in this scenario. Swift is going to be there, and then where's Godwin accordingly? Godwin is, yeah, it's Swift. In a half PPR, it's Swift. Thank you for the question, Caden. Appreciate it. Moving on from Caden's question, we have Cowboys 9511, who says, hidden gems for week one. Hidden gems for week one is definitely a risk. The thing about hidden gems, typically I like to target players who are rostered and or starting in a very low percentage of leagues. And going into week one, we really just want to play our studs. We want to play the players that we drafted to lead us to the promised land, right? Like if we're already going and hitting the waiver wires for players to start when bye weeks haven't hit and injuries haven't hit to a extreme extent, then at that point, I think we're, if we do a hidden gems for week one, we're overreaching our bounds. Even though I've done it in the past for week one and it's hit on multiple occasions, I think going into week one, it's safest to just play your studs. Don't get too cute with it. Now, of course, one of your studs were perhaps T. Higgins, then, Andre Yoshivash should probably be someone that we're looking at as a pickup to potentially play if you don't have any other wide receiver depth. Jeff sends in a super chat, says, should I play Burrow or pivot to Geno Smith or pick up Justin Fields if Wilson doesn't play? So Justin Fields earlier today did end up taking first team snaps for the offense. That really does lead me to believe that there's a potential in which, of course, Russell Wilson dealing with that calf injury, if his mobility is impaired, he's not going to start. And if it's between those three, honestly, I probably would like to play Justin Fields. Justin Fields, any given week, because of his rushing upside, has so much more potential. As for Burrow, if Chase and Higgins are both out, give me Geno Smith there. But if in fact it's a play between like no Chase, no Higgins, and we have no Russell Wilson and it's Fields, I'll take Fields over the bunch. Because Burrow's already dropping in my rankings because of the out of Higgins and the potential, even if Chase is there, if Burrow doesn't get him for the full game, he's throwing to second string wide receivers the whole game, which is obviously going to be rough. All right, let's see here. We move on to Bruce Cowdrey, who sends in the following question. Seattle or Tampa Bay this week? I'll take Seattle's defense, especially considering next week they also have a really good matchup against the, if I'm not mistaken, I think they play against the New England Patriots next week. Seahawks schedule. They play against the New England Patriots next week. So you can double up. You can get two matchups out of it by picking them up and playing them this week. As for your second question, Bruce, which is a better stack? Which is a better stack? Oh, that's not even your question. You're talking about straight stacks. I would rather stack Tampa Bay this week. Thank you. You weren't even asking about defenses. Anyway, for anybody who got the information for that defense, do with it what you will. Daniel Barnes sends in a super chat. Says, should I add Rome Odunze and drop Dowdle? Full PPR. My other RBs are Monty Achane, Javonte Williams, and Jonathan Brooks. If Jonathan Brooks is on your injured reserve, or if he's not even on your injured reserve yet, move him there and then pick up a player. As for picking up Rome Odunze, yeah, I'd like to. Do I drop Dowdle for him? I kind of want to wait and see what Dowdle's capable of. But honestly, based on the value of Rome Odunze and how I expect to see him rank within the rest of the season, yeah, I'm probably picking him up in a full PPR there. Moving on to Chris B, the RD, who says, we have Jordan Love or Joe Burrow in a 4-point per passing touchdown league. As of it currently, yeah. The concerns of the injury risk of these players, Higgins probably, even if he plays, maybe he's going to be, limited. Chase is going to be limited. We're just going to start Jordan Love there. They're really close in my rankings, so that's the direction I would go in. AJ says, didn't mention 10-team full PPR. Okay, AJ, if I go down to your question, yes, we'll still make that move. We'll play Murray there, and we'll trade for Kincaid. Thank you, AJ, for the clarification. A-Rod sends in a question. Says, 10-team PPR. I need a flex between Mostert, Neighbors, and Dell. In a full PPR scoring format, I would happily play Malik Neighbors there. Thank you very much for your question, A-Rod. Caesar Garza says, hey, Andrew, nice to see you again. I've been on your channel for 4 years now. Will you start? Okay, first and foremost, that's a very long time. Thank you for the support, first and foremost, for all of you who have been here, whether you've been here for the last 10 minutes or you've been here for the last 5 years. Thank you. Appreciate it. Much love. As for your question, Mr. Garza, you have the following options in a full PPR: Javonte Williams, Jerome Ford, Terry McLaurin. Let me see where I have McLaurin in comparison to the and the thing. Yeah. That's a half PPR. Where's the other format? If I go boom, bang. Okay, there we go. Now we check McLaurin on the Control F function. I see him there. And then we go Ford and we see him. Are they that close? Wow. Okay. Yeah. So as it stands, McLaurin's the play, but they're relatively close to the point to where if you told me, hey, I'm gonna play Ford, I wouldn't even blink. That's how close they are. They're within my rankings. So for right now, between those three potential options, it's McLaurin 1, Ford 2, Javonte 3. Thank you. In a PPR. If it was a half PPR, I would just insta play Jerome Ford, purely based on volume. Thank you. Calvin 75 says PPR T Higgins or David Montgomery. T Higgins is not going to play. Even if he does play, I'm not going to trust that he's going to be healthy. If you guys remember a couple years past, there was a game in which T Higgins went into the game questionable / doubtful. And we were like, oh, he's playing. Great. He's playing against the Baltimore Ravens. Let's fire him up. I think this was in 2021 or 2022. Either way. He ends up playing the first snap of the game and then never logs another snap for the remainder of the game. So that's how you cash a game check, by the way. Anyway, David Montgomery's the suggestion there, Calvin. Thank you. Sean sends in a super chat, says pick 2.5 PPR. We have Addison, Palmer, Eckler, Moss. Addison, Palmer, Eckler, Moss. In a half PPR, picking 2 of these options. I'd like to play Zach Moss there, especially with the lack of receiving depth there. There may be a bigger emphasis on running the ball. And I probably would go with Palmer as the second option. So I'm leaning towards Palmer Moss there. Ross Wong sends in a super chat. Thank you, Ross. Says, if Chase is out or even quote-unquote limited this weekend, should I still risk playing him? My league is a full PPR 2 flex league. I currently have Collins, Devontae Smith, and Puka Nacua. If I do not play Jamar Chase this week, I have the options of Chase Brown, Keenan Allen, and Pollard. Look, at this current moment, okay, so we don't know what exactly we're going to see. What we do know is that by the time we get to Sunday morning, between 7 to 10 a.m. when we're live streaming, there are going to be reports out from reporters that I truly do trust and I have trusted for multiple years that are going to give me an indication as to whether or not we are going to see more Chase or less Chase within the matchup, assuming he is playing in any sort of capacity. Once we get there, we'll be able to make a clear designation. As of right now, I would say I want to play Chase, but considering your quadra flex league, there's more inherent risk if you do not play a guy like Keenan Allen there. So it's probably playing Keenan Allen in your scenario here, Ross. Eisenberg says, should I risk Higgins or start Christian Watson? I would play Christian Watson tonight. Johnny sends in a super chat, says, Brian Thomas Jr., Rome Odunze, Shakir, start 2. I would start... okay. Brian Thomas Jr. for sure gets the start. As for Shakir and Odunze, I kind of want to play with Khalil Shakir there. That's the direction I'm going in. BTJ and Shakir. That boy OD says, start Musgrave over Bowers. I probably wouldn't unless Tucker Kraft is out. If Tucker Kraft is designated out, which there's a possibility of that taking place within the next, hour, 2. More like the next hour. But if that's to take place, I'd feel very comfortable with the idea of playing Musgrave there. Thank you for your question. All right, we're almost caught up. We have a question from, let's see here. Count, who says, PPR, Godwin or DJ Moore? I would play Godwin there. Thank you, Count. Cowboys 9511, who says, what 2 would you roster? Braylon Allen, Jalen Polk, or Ray Davis? If it's my team, I am rostering Ray Davis and I'm rostering Polk. I'd rather have those 2 as of this current moment. Thank you. Baja Blast says, top fantasy predictions for tonight's game. Fantasy predictions? Okay, so we'll get to the pick'em slips via Underdog in a moment. So that could be a potential prediction of sorts. Look, here's the thing. I'm expecting both these teams, who are very proficient in their offensive play calling, to be scoring a lot. Both these defenses, again, I know that we're getting a new defensive coordinator on both ends, and that could be a huge shift. We're going to have to wait and see. But both these defenses have been liabilities over the last couple years. So if they continue to be liabilities, which we're hoping for, fingers crossed, we could find ourselves a lot of fantasy scores. But again, Jalen Hurts, Jordan Love, again, 2 of my top 8, if not top 7 ranked quarterbacks for this week. Automatic play for Saquon, automatic play for Josh Jacobs. I think the only fringe plays, because we're automatically starting A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith in my mind. I'm also probably, I think that's about it. I think everything else is fringe, like Jaden Reed, Goddard, Musgrave, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs. Those are all fringe potential plays if you're in a bind. But otherwise, everything else is automatic start. All right, let's see here. We had a question that came in from Reese Fredrickson, who says, if Higgins start JSN or Adonai Mitchell, I would probably play JSN there. I know that Tyler Lockett earlier today said that he is going to play. I think that JSN is probably going to overtake him as the wide receiver to that offense. Cooper sends in a question, says, okay, would you play Godwin over Smith and Smith over Pittman? Yes, I probably would, especially in a full PPR. Yeah. If it's my team and I'm playing in a full PPR, I'd play Godwin and Devontae Smith this week. Did someone just at me on Twitter? What is this? Ellis says, how do we feel about Burrow versus Love still? Yeah, we would probably play Love there. Yeah. As it currently stands, we're going to go with Love there, Ellis, if you can hear me. If you're watching the stream and not just messaging me on Discord. Let's see here. Drew King sends in a super chat. Thank you, Drew. Says, I have Rice and London as my starting wide receivers and Ridley, Polk, and Coleman on my bench in a 12-man league. Should I try to make a trade for a better wide receiver? My running backs are currently Taylor and Jacobs and White as my starters. My bench running backs are Williams. Okay. I don't think you need to make a trade, technically. Your 2 running backs in your flex are going to be started as such every single week. And quite frankly, Rice and London are going to be your starting wide receivers every week. Ridley could end up getting himself into the pole position of being a potential flex starter in a week in which he has shown multiple weeks of consistency and it's a good matchup. But ultimately, I think you'd rather just have the depth of Ridley, Polk, Coleman on your bench in case they are able to have themselves explosive games. And then once they do have those games where they've established themselves mainstays within their lineups and they already have a dugout role, then you go ahead and ship them because they will have more value than what they currently have at this current moment in time. All right, Pipe sends in a question. Says, Shakir, Pickens, Christian Watson start 2. As it currently stands in a full PPR, I'd play Pickens and Shakir. Roy Powell, and that's, again, under the assumption that we have a full capacity Romeo Doubs. I know that there was Romeo Doubs was on the injury report earlier this week with a hand injury, but he wasn't questionable for today, so I think he's going to play. So we'll take Pickens and Shakir there out of the group. Obviously, Christian Watson, just like Xavier Worthy, guys, is capable any given play to take it to the house, right? We know that he is an explosive player. He's an outside receiver. He will probably see a lot of, if the Eagles want to run a lot of zone today, he probably won't see a lot of Darius Slay, but if in fact he does, do not be surprised, which again, it wouldn't be the greatest day for him. Then again, Darius Slay wasn't the greatest, cornerback last season, but I think that was defensive coordinator issues, putting them into vulnerable positions. Anyway, Roy Powell sends in a question. Says, Jaden Reed, Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen, start 1. If I'm starting 1, it's Amari Cooper. Thank you. The second of the 3 would be Keenan Allen, and then third would be Jaden Reed. But I hold Amari Cooper ahead of all 3, amongst the 3 at a pretty high level in comparison. Trident sent in a birthday cake. Thank you, Trident. Okay. Did I catch up to everything? I think I did. I did. Beautiful. Okay. Hope you guys are doing well. Thank you for joining us. Let's see what the live chat has to say here. Someone asked JSN or Njoku. Depends on the scoring format, I think. Jeremy says, I don't remember if I asked you already in week 1, full PPR, Zamir White versus Los Angeles or Ramondre Stevenson versus Cincinnati. In a full PPR, it makes Ramondre Stevenson a far more enticing potential play. That being said, Antonio Pierce, I think it was either yesterday or earlier today, was asked in a press conference regarding the usage of what we're going to see out of Zamir White. Like I've told you guys, last year and this offseason, Antonio Pierce, the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, wants to give his starting running back 15 to 20 touches a game minimum. And he even, in this press conference, said, yeah, we want to give our number one RB, Zamir White, 15, 20, if not 25 touches per game. Literally quoted to say that. So Zamir White should see himself a lot of touches. He may go up my rankings a little bit as it currently stands. Let me see where I have them in comparison to one another in a full PPR. This is pre-adjustment as well. Pre-adjustment, I have Ramondre ahead because of the receiving upside. It may be a little bit closer as we get to Sunday. And do I want to objectively say that I'm going to flip it? Let's think about this. I might not flip it. I might just stick with, if he gets 25 touches, if he gets 20 touches at 4 yards a carry, would it be 80 yards, has a potential for a touchdown? That's 8 to 14 potential fantasy points. Maybe he catches a ball or two. Like, I feel like Zamir White is more inclined. Oh, man. Okay, so as it currently stands, Ramondre is probably the guy that I would go with. That's basically because of Antonio Gibson being questionable, dealing with an injury. So there's a chance in which we get to the game, Antonio Gibson is either not playing or limited in his usage. That would just accelerate all of the receiving utilization that Ramondre gets. He could end up getting 8 receptions in this game. That's very much so capable. So Ramondre is probably the guy, but very close behind him is going to be Zamir. Very close. All right, let's see here. We did see a super chat coming from the professor. I'm going to get to that in a moment. Trident, did you have a question that was attached, that wasn't potentially attached here? Trident. Trident says the following. I have priority on my waivers. My tight end is Signup for the Washington Commanders. Do I pick up Likely? Also, who do I drop? Because I have to drop 2 if I was to pick up Likely because I need a defense as well. Signup, Trey Benson, and McConkey. Okay, hold up. So the thing is, you're not going to be able to pick up Likely until Wednesday morning, Tuesday night, because he played already. So there's no way that you can pick him up anyway. So if your starting tight end is already Signup and you can't drop him, so then you can't do anything about it. You have to play Signup and you have to drop somebody else. Yeah, so as of right now, Trident, you can't drop your tight end. You have to wait till Tuesday and put in a waiver accordingly, which, yes, I would say as of right now, you're probably putting in a waiver considering your tight end is someone I don't even have within my top 20 rankings at tight end. But then you'd have to drop one of those 2, which is probably McConkey who gets dropped, which is crazy. But in comparison to Trey Benson, I would take the upside of the potential of Benson remainder of the season. The professor says Noah Fant or Luke Musgrave this week. Let me see where I have them ranked accordingly. You just had to make it difficult, huh? Luke Musgrave is there. I have him ahead of Noah Fant this week. Let me see where I have him in the other scoring formats. Let's Control F. Musgrave. Yeah, I have him ahead of Noah Fant. Thank you for the question, Professor. Chris BDR, the BRD. Oh, yeah. Says Burrow or Love, 4 point per passing touchdown. For sure going to be Jordan Love today. Definitely play Jordan Love. After that, we had Caden who follows up, says, scenario, I start Stafford over Burrow. I'm fine with that. Yeah, Burrow's moving down my rankings a pretty considerable margin. So I would feel comfortable playing Stafford on Sunday Night Football. GV sends out a super chat, says, Reed or Mostert in a PPR? I have Jordan Love as my quarterback. I think I mentioned this earlier. I do have Reed ahead of Mostert in a full PPR, so I would take Reed there. If it was a half PPR or standard, I'd probably lean towards Mostert and the volume of running back touches, but considering the full PPR format, I'll take Reed there. There's no issue with that at all. Thank you for the question, GV. Okay, let's see here. In the chat, we have Ryan Herschel. I think I saw that name. Can't lie, Andrews killed me. Yeah, listen, brother, we're all in the same boat. Jordan in chat says Montgomery or Smith in a half PPR. That one's pretty close. That one I gotta see. Let me look this up real quick. Let's go check this. If we go to half PPR, we go to Monty. It's close. I'll tell you that much. Half PPR. Where's Devontae Smith? Yeah, it's David Montgomery in a half PPR. again, just the rule of thumb, everyone, okay? And I think you've kind of gotten a realization of this as we've progressed throughout this live stream, and you'll get an understanding of this as we progress throughout the remainder of the season. Rule of thumb typically is if we got like a top 20 running back on hand in comparison to a wide receiver that's ranked like 20 and beyond, like 20 to 40, in a half PPR, I'm going to take that top 20 running back in the form of David Montgomery over someone like potentially a Christian Kirk or a Jaden Reed in a half PPR scoring format. Even a Devontae Smith, primarily because the volume of touches and the touchdown upside is so much higher for one of those top 20 running backs to succeed in comparison. So yeah. In the full PPR, the conversation flips a little bit there. Okay, Football is Life sends in a super chat. Thank you. It says full PPR, Christian McCaffrey and Kenneth Walker, or Kyren Williams and Hall. Thanks. Wow. In a full PPR, which two would I rather have? Christian McCaffrey and Kenneth Walker, Kyren Williams, and Breece Hall. I'd probably rather have Breece Hall and Kyren Williams, to be honest. Yeah, that's the two that I'd rather have there, which is pretty, I mean, it's close, but I'd probably go in that direction. Kyren and Hall. Brett Webster sends in a super chat. Thank you, Brett. Appreciate it. Brett says, new subscriber, would you start Kyler Murray or Tua Tagovailoa this week? I have Tyreek Hill, and it's a 6-point per passing touchdown format. Okay, considering the 6-point per passing touchdown format, I'm more inclined to play Tua Tagovailoa, mainly because, so Tua is probably implicated to score 2 passing touchdowns, if not 3. If I'm not mistaken, what was the stat that I mentioned the other day? It was something of the extent that in like the last 6 healthy games that Tua has played in the month of September, he scored 16 total passing touchdowns. That's 2.7 on a per game average. And it's a game in Miami. Again, he's typically far better at home in terms of his home away splits. Tua is probably the play there, considering the format of 6-point per passing touchdown. That's not to say that Kyler's not a great play. It's that the format itself does lend to a lot more value where he typically shouldn't have it, and Kyler would typically get the advantage because of his rushing workload. Officer Ron sends in a super chat, says, Higgins out, full PPR replacement, Dobbs or Shakir? Currently, I have Shakir ahead of Dobbs. Thank you for the question. Let's see here. Jonathan Wright in the chat says, Mahomes killed me week 1. Here's the thing, right? Week 1 just only began. There is a lot more potential for some other people to kill you. I mean, like, I'm just saying, like, every season this happens. Week 1, people just don't show up. And it's going to happen. We'll see. Let's just hope that Mahomes is the most of your concerns after week 1 is concluded. Let's just hope that that's the biggest concern you have, rather than somebody else not, showing up. James Grover sends in a super chat. Thank you, James. Appreciate it. Says, I'm in a 10-team full PPR, 1 flex league. Any advice and thoughts on my team? I have Jalen Hurts, Bijan Robinson, Devon Achane, Zamir White, Singletary, Garrett Wilson, Olave, Kirk, Flowers, Watson, Ferguson, Baltimore defense, and the Saints. Sorry, is that Baltimore D and Saints D? You have both of them? Okay, very well. As for your roster, you've got great running backs. There's no complaints there at all. You've got a top 2 quarterback, Garrett Wilson, Olave, Flowers, Kirk, Christian Watson, great wide receivers across the board. And considering it's a 10-team league, you're going to have a pseudo all-star team to an extent. I mean, again, you pretty much, you have 2 top 8 running backs. You have 2 top potential 15 wide receivers, top-tier quarterback. Even though you took a little bit of a discount at tight end, you could always go get Isaiah Likely. I mean, I think you're in a pretty good spot there, James. You're in a pretty good spot. Hopefully you didn't play Baltimore's defense last night and you're playing the Saints, because again, the Saints have voted, they've been pretty good against Carolina's offense over the course of the last 2 games that they played against Bryce Young last season. If I'm not mistaken, in the second game in which Bryce Young took on the Saints last season, he was like it was a ridiculous number. It was like 10 for 36 passing. Let me see here. Bryce Young. It was like, I don't know. I saw it earlier this week when I was doing research. I was like, what in the heck is that? Where is it? 13 for 36 passing last time against them for 137 yards. So, yeah, I think we'll be fine with the Saints defense, assuming you didn't play Baltimore last night. Hopefully you didn't. Stevie D says, McLaurin or Swift in a full PPR? I'll take Swift there this week. Thank you, Stevie. Appreciate it. DJ says, big fan, Andrew. Should I panic about Derrick Henry? No, I wouldn't panic per se. Again, I mentioned it earlier on in the stream. Perhaps you weren't here, DJ. When you take on the Kansas City Chiefs and you are losing on the road, it's going to lead to Lamar Jackson throwing the ball 40 times, right? But more often than not, and we talked about this yesterday during the live stream when I was going through pickups, and I looked at Lamar Jackson going higher on his passing attempts, and I was like, more often than not, about like 80% of the time that Lamar Jackson's in a negative game script, he's throwing the ball over, 30.5 times it was yesterday, something like that. So based on the overall game script that took place yesterday, the fact that they were losing, they had to, obviously claw back down 10 points. It eliminates the rushing opportunity for Derrick Henry. But going forward, there are going to be games in which they are leading, they have a dominant lead, and they're running the ball in the second half of games. We already know that Derrick Henry isn't going to be implicated for receiving upside. That wasn't the point. It was all about, can he get his 1,200 yards and 12 touchdowns? And I think he's certainly capable of doing so. Sure, he's going to have weeks where he puts up 10 points. Then there's going to be weeks of 22 points. And it's going to go back and forth for the remainder of the year. If you're not comfortable with that, you can move on. But I think that we shouldn't be panicking per se. Okay, let's scroll down here. Let's get to the most updated questions really quickly. Let's go ahead and refresh the page so that the chat doesn't break, and we're good to go. Cool. So really quickly, what I wanted to do is I wanted to travel on over to Underdog Fantasy, put together a couple pick'em slips for today's upcoming game. Again, we did that yesterday in regards to taking advantage of the Travis Kelce 0.5 total yards. So I'm going to go ahead and try to put together, or suggest to put together, a slip for those of you who have an opportunity of taking advantage of today's Jalen Hurts 0.5 total yards. Yesterday, we took advantage of anytime touchdown receptions at a pretty good rate, and obviously it panned out. So we want to take advantage of that. When I head on over to Underdog Fantasy, I won't have that offer available because I already took advantage of Kelce last night, but there's also another promotion that is currently available via Underdog. So let's go ahead and let's check that out right now. Via Underdog, we have the following. So as it currently stands, there is a 20% profit boost for any play, and it's to a maximum of a $10 bet. So that's what we'll go ahead and do. I'm going to apply this, and I'll make a $10 bet right there underneath my arm, as you can see right there. Boom. But as we go into this specific match, let me actually refresh this page really quickly, just so that all of the lines are good to go. Let's click on NFL. Perfect. Okay. This is applied. So going into today's game, if you cannot take advantage of the 0.5 total yards of Jalen Hurts, like myself, this is the way that I currently see it. I'm taking higher on Devontae Smith, 4.5 receptions. That is a given in my mind. Primarily, they already kind of believe it to be a given. It's at a 0.88 multiplier. So you're getting less than the normal return on your investment in terms of the overall pick 'em play. Primarily, you know what I actually need to do? Hold up, everybody stay calm. The banner to the right of me is not my updated one. This one's my updated one. Ahaha, there it is, changed. Okay. Anyway, so what I was saying, they already believe this is an automatic. So do I. I'm very much so of the belief that we're going to have a great game here from Devontae Smith. And 4.5 receptions should be something that is very easily attainable. Now, as we continue, we need to include a player from the opposite side of the field. We can't have multiple players on one team. Otherwise, I would probably be very comfortable putting something together in regards to Jalen Hurts. But as for the Green Bay Packers, I don't know if you guys in the live chat have something that you've seen that you find to be like, hey, this is something that we got to look at. Like, when I was looking at this earlier today, some of the things that at least popped out to me, all of these receivers are at 3.5 receptions. So Vegas currently has this implied as the third highest scoring matchup of the week. Let me go and let me confirm this. Week 1 spreads. So if we go and pull this up right now, Sportsbooks, as it currently stands, has this as a 49.5 point game. Okay. So under the assumption that, again, the Eagles are 2-point favorites, it's almost a 50-point total in terms of total points scored anticipated between these two teams. The expectation is that we'll end up seeing a 31-28 kind of game. That's kind of what Vegas has it set out to be. If we're going to have multiple touchdowns, four touchdowns from both sides of the field, there's no way that we're getting games in which we're not getting with these guys with at least 4 receptions. That's my initial peaking thought. Then I go ahead and I think, all right, well, with Marshawn Lloyd dealing with a questionable injury tag, and so is Emmanuel Wilson, and A.J. Dillon is out with injury, shouldn't this be a game in which Josh Jacobs gets himself a lot of overall opportunities, which it probably should be, whether it is total rushing attempts or, like, I wish there was a total of, like, targets and attempts. Is there maybe? Let's see here. Longest rush? No. First, yeah, no. So, of this, I like receptions. It's a 0.86 for a reason, and I know that these are both, but, like, why wouldn't I just take advantage of this? Like, it's currently as it stands, what would this bet be? This would be a 10 for 25. Like, why wouldn't I take these? Now, I could probably spice it up with another potential pick to increase the multiplier, but, like, this is the kind of stuff that I'm looking at, and I'm thinking 2.5 receptions. I looked at it earlier today. The Green Bay Packers last season, typically their running backs were getting about 4 receptions per game. If both these other running backs for the team are limited, if not out, I don't see why this wouldn't be an automatic hit here. Dumping the ball off to Jacobs, a very much so 3-down capable back. It's going to be their 3-down back all of this game. Like, I don't want to say 100% that he's going to be able to eclipse the 16.5 rushing attempt number, because that implies that they're going to have a pretty dominant lead to run the ball for majority of this game. But as it stands, I think 2.5 receptions, pretty damn safe. What is his receiving yards at 18.5? Let's see here. Looking at the live chat, Jaden Reed or JSN full PPR? Nolan, I'd probably end up going with Jaden Reed there. Stewart in the chat says full PPR Cup, Ford, Mostert, McBride. I'd probably play Cup there. Noah in the chat says Kirk or Sutton week 1. If it's a full PPR, we play Kirk. Dom in the chat says Devontae Smith or DJ Moore. I'm leaning towards playing Devontae Smith there. Let's see here. Okay, just looking at the chat. Anybody got anything for it? Neighbors. Okay, you guys are talking about completely different players. All right. Saquon receptions too. That's the thing that worries me. This offense, yes, they have a new offensive coordinator, but typically when you have a mobile quarterback of the capacity of Jalen Hurts, there's typically a lesser upside for receiving potential for the running back position, typically. It's not to say that it's impossible for it to happen, because last season we saw it on multiple occasions for DeAndre Swift, where he's able to get himself 4 or 5 receptions in a game. But it wasn't a consistent enough kind of reoccurring theme to trust it. Let's see. What do we have with Jordan Love's overall touches here? 7.5 rushing yards. That's not terrible, but I would hate the idea of him kneeling the ball out and killing me at the end of the game because of that. I think someone in the chat also said Christian Watson on receiving yards. That's also not a bad one either. That's not a bad one at all. That could be the play. Let's see here. James in the chat says, I'm in a half PPR 10-team league, 6 point per touchdown. I need a bench 1 between Jacobs, Kamara, Neighbors, and Godwin. Instinct is Neighbors until he's proven, but not positive. Thoughts? In a half PPR, I for sure have to play Kamara and Jacobs there. As for Godwin and Neighbors, I'm kind of within the same wavelength as you. I do believe that probably Neighbors has a higher touchdown upside, but even then, within that offense, it's just not as guaranteed of a potential product, especially with the matchup against Gilmore and that defense. Yeah, it probably is benching him and playing Godwin in his stead. Okay, let's see here. Justin Herbert will play off the injury report. Beautiful. Somebody asked Montgomery or Tank Dell in the flex. If it's a half PPR, it's probably Montgomery. Even if in a full PPR, I may even just consider playing Montgomery there just because of the sheer volume of touches. Dilo says, thoughts on Packers kicker? I'm all in. Who is the Packers kicker? I know that they replaced, what's his name? Carlson. Anders Carlson. I believe they replaced him. Let's see. Who's the other kicker? Where are we at here? Let's scroll all the way down. Where's the kicking game? Man, there are so many plays. There is so many. Okay. Sweat, Jair Alexander, Darius Slay, Bo Melton, Jake Elliott. Where's the Packers kicker? Am I crazy? I don't even think they have him on the list. Luke Musgrave, 2.5 receptions is also, I mean, look, again, 0.89. They know that it's a good number. They really do. And that it is a great number. Jonathan Rife says it's likely worthy. LOL. That's a good one. That's actually a good one. Don't be surprised if I use that in the future. Underdog has Watson at 40.5 at even odds. But if you switch it to 39.5, it goes, wait, what? Oh, I see what you're saying. So you're using one of those sites that if you swap it, it gives you an idea. I see what you're saying. So we're saying he's going higher than 40. Is that what we're saying? Because if everybody's down with this, I'll take this. I can even get rid of the Josh Jacobs play. Love 2.5 rushing attempts. Is it 2.5? I thought it was... Where the heck is Love's rushing attempts? 2.5. Okay, but look, that then requires a... Okay, let's see here. How many scrambles does this guy get per game? He doesn't run the ball often. I think he had like 50 rushing attempts all of last year. So rushing attempts in most recent games. You ready? 5. And then 1. Okay? Then he had 3, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 4, 4, 3, 2. Like, it's a 3-2 game, right? So that 2.5 number is pretty solid. The pass rush for the Philadelphia Eagles is pretty good. The question is, can he get out of the pocket to where he's running the ball? That's the sketchiness of it. If he needs the ball at the end of the half, that's a rushing attempt. If he needs the ball at the end of the game, that's a rushing attempt. All he would need to do is, I mean, under the assumption that the Packers win, all he would need to do is have one literal scramble, and that's it. Which, not terrible. Not terrible. Kicker is Braden Narvison. Okay, well, I don't even know if Mr. Braden is here. Oh, he is. There it is. Dude, I must have scrolled past him, huh? What the heck is this guy from? Let's see here. Let me copy this guy's name and let's look him up. Did he even play in the league or is he a rookie? Let's see here. NC State. Okay, so he's a rookie. Okay, got it. College stats. What do we got here? Last year, North Carolina State, 38 of 38 on PATs, 18 of 23 from field goals, 78%. Ugh. I don't know about this, guys. His junior year at Western Kentucky, 15 of 21 for field goals, 71%. Are we sure, guys? Are we sure? Past achievement typically determines the likelihood of future success. I don't know about that one. That seems a little interesting, to say the very least. All right, let me go ahead. Let's update this really quickly. We're good. Okay. I do see that there was a super chat sent in from Safety Net who says, need 3 of 4. We have London, Neighbors, Olave, and Smith. Of those available options in a half PPR, Safety Net, I'm playing London, Olave, and Smith. Thank you. Okay, let's clear that. And then let's go back to where we're at in the chat. What do we have here? Okay, so this is a question in the live chat. It says, T. Higgins is doubtful. Who do I put in if he's out? Full PPR, Deontay Johnson, Jacoby Myers, Jonnu, Gus, Mike Williams. My other wide receivers are starting are Amon-Ra, Debo, and Worthy. Yeah, as this current moment in time, you play Deontay Johnson in his absence. He is probably going to miss. Doubtful. Very seldom do we ever see over the course of a season a player be given the doubtful designation and still end up playing. So Deontay Johnson is your best available option of the following in a full PPR format there. Let's see here. Nick Graham says, half PPR, start 2, Olave, Kamara, and Cook. I probably play both the running backs. I'm going to be honest. I probably play James Cook and Kamara there in a half PPR format. Let's see here. What is this? Zamir White or Jacoby Myers in a full PPR? I probably end up playing Zamir White there. Until I get an understanding as to how that offense is going to function with the new OC there, it's most likely a play in which we're playing Zamir White. Full PPR, Pickens or Reed? I probably end up playing Pickens there. With the quarterback in question, obviously it makes it less enticing to trust Pickens, but who else is Fields going to throw the ball to? Like legitimately, even if Fields plays, who else is he going to throw to? Billy says, with T. Higgins doubtful, should I start Watson tonight or wait for Josh Palmer on Sunday? I think an argument can be made for either of the two. let's see how I have it ranked accordingly. If we go flex, what is your format, by the way? Let me go back to the chat. Does it say? Billy, what's your half PPR? Got it. Thank you, Billy. Okay, so let's go half PPR. Yeah, as of right now, I have Palmer ranked ahead of him. If you want to play the game of risk, right? Which again, everything is risk when it comes to fantasy. But if you want to play the extra game of risk, it's probably a situation in which you can try to go after this, Christian Watson upside of a performance. Again, when he's fully healthy, he's a damn good player. I talked about it this offseason. I've talked about it in the past. The last 8 or 9 healthy games, he's averaging like 11 plus fantasy points per game. I know somebody in the chat just mentioned like 7.95 fantasy points for him. Seems like or 7.45 fantasy points for him is a pretty good number. Like, look, 7.45 in terms of this is under the assumption that he goes higher on his receptions and higher on his yardage, right? So if he gets 4 receptions and over 41 yards, right? What is that? That's in a half PPR because that's what Underdog functions as of. They're a half PPR system. That's 6 fantasy points or 6.1. So he'll even have to do more to accomplish this number, which again, based on how they utilize him in the past with rushing upside, he could very easily attain that number within the game. I'm pretty comfortable with 40.5. I just don't know if I want to add more to it. I think I might want to add like another player to this play. There's a lot of, like, I almost want to get rid of Jacobs, maybe even take Jacobs as a rushing touchdown. What is this vulture protection thing? All right, hold on. Let me read this really quickly. Okay. Get your entry refunded and receive promo if vulture causes an entry to lose. On Underdog, a vulture is defined as a rushing touchdown scored by a player who is not a designated RB. Okay, understood. When this touchdown is scored, the designated RB is considered to have been vultured. Okay, so not a designated RB. Very well. So if they get down to the goal line, just like, okay, so for example, if they get down to the goal line and they give a jet sweep to Christian Watson, he scores a rushing touchdown. I get refunded if I have an anytime touchdown for... Okay, yeah, I get an... Okay, very well. Okay. So eligible players. Okay, great. So maybe I'll just take anytime touchdown here. Let me see here. Rules. If the selected player is designated running back on the list, rushing or receiving touchdown in the entry will receive vulture protection. If the selected player is vultured, the entry is rescued and you'll be given a... Okay, all right, let's do it. Hey, listen, if we get vulture protection, beautiful. I'd rather just put that in there. Because if they're going to get down to the goal line and we're going to get a vulture, I get saved. That's a really good... I mean, shoot, that sounds great to me. Gorlak is the destroyer in the chat. Says full PPR. Palmer, Yoshibas, or Shakir. I'd probably play Palmer out of the 3. Jaster Engineering says got Cup and Hill. I need 2 between the following in a full PPR: Deontay Johnson, Jaden Reed, Palmer, Michael Wilson, Brian Thomas Jr. I probably play Brian Thomas. Ooh, out of the bunch, it's probably Deontay Johnson and either Brian Thomas or Palmer. Let's see. Let's go figure out what I have them ranked as accordingly. If I go, thank you, Palmer. Okay, now that I'm looking at it, I have Reed ahead of Palmer. But what is the full PPR format? Is it full PPR? Yeah. So in your scenario here, you play Deontay Johnson and probably Jaden Reed, Jaster Engineering. DC650 says, hey, Andrew, been watching your videos for a couple years now. Thanks in advance. I need to start 2 in a standard format. James Cook, Achane, Walker. I have Brees Hall already in. So James Cook is probably my number 2 suggestion. Number 3, I don't see myself ever benching Achane, so I probably end up playing him as well. So it's probably a Hall, Cook, Achane play. DC, thank you. I mean, don't get it twisted. I love Kenneth Walker this week. But I don't see myself sitting the other options in comparison right now. Chad R says, hey, Andrew, thoughts on Mike Williams this year? I know that I heard the other day that they're going to limit his overall touches in week 1. He's going to be on a snap count. So as of right now, as a bench potential option, that's fine. I don't have an issue with it. I'm not touching him as a starting player until we can get out of the snap count era of his Jets tenure. But otherwise, yeah, I think he's got pretty good value. All right, so this is where I'm going to leave it at right now. I'm not going to enter this 100% yet. We'll come back to this in a moment. I just want to go back. We'll focus on a couple questions, then we'll mosey on our way back here to confirm it. But again, if you guys want to, you could take advantage of the free pick. You could also take advantage of probably the 20% extra bonus and the vulture protection. So again, you got a pretty good safe potential play going into tonight's game if interested. Again, check out Underdog. Link down in the description. Signing up today using code Andrew will get you guys my rankings every single Sunday morning for the remainder of the season. Okay, let's see here. Felix says Reed or Ayuk. Haha. Let's see. Where do I have Mr. Ayuk in comparison? I think I have Ayuk ahead of him, and I probably would maintain that ranking. I don't think I play Reed over Ayuk in any sort of circumstance as it currently stands right now. What is this new update? Christian McCaffrey limited on Friday's practice. That's fine. He's going to be limited until tomorrow. Tomorrow he'll probably get a full designation and he'll be fine. What are we looking at here? We were looking for... What was the question again? Let me go back here. The Christian McCaffrey has me distraught at the moment. Someone says Marvin or Garrett Wilson. I play Garrett Wilson there. Oh yeah, Ayuk. Thank you. So let's go wide receiver. Where are we at here? Control F. Ayuk. Okay, I have him there. And then, yeah, I have him ahead of Reed. There's no way I'm sitting Ayuk in this scenario. Thank you. Trevor Lawrence or Justin Herbert? I'd rather play Trevor Lawrence there this week. James Cook doesn't get touchdowns. It's standard. Yeah, no, I mean, he doesn't get consistent touchdowns. But Arizona's defense is so damn bad. There's a chance that not only is he going to put up over 100 rushing yards, but he could end up scoring a touchdown. Don't get it wrong. Listen, I love Kenneth Walker. I mean, there shouldn't really be a reason why we're not playing all four of those, but I mean, you've got a pretty small league there. That's why you got all that, stud options. Let's see here. Is it really a standard league? It's not even a full. Let's see here. Where the heck did that question go? Let's go back. It was Cook. It is a standard. Got it. Yeah. In a standard format, I might even... Yeah, standard's different. That's the thing. In a standard format, I might even not even play 8chan. That's the scary part. Yeah, in a standard format, you're probably safer not playing James Cook. James Cook's value, a lot of it is going to be off receptions. I mean, last season, the back end of the year was averaging nearly 4 receptions per game. So, yeah, I mean, if it's a standard format and you're literally getting no points per reception, DC, then at that point, yeah, you'd have to play Walker ahead of him. Ridley or Ayuk? If Hopkins sits. If Hopkins sits, I could convince myself to play Ridley. I don't think Hopkins sits, though. Jersey says, I think Dobbs balls out tonight. I hope you're right. I mean, the last 2 games that they played at the back end of the playoffs, we saw a lot of potential for Dobbs. But prior to that, again, there's so much ups and downs from these receivers. There's very little consistency. Marcel says, I don't have vulture protection. Would you recommend still running 2.5 receptions on Josh Jacobs or switching to anytime touchdown? If you don't have the vulture protection, I think it's probably safer that you most likely just go with the receptions. Or if you just want to follow just the vault. Yeah, no, I think it's probably safer to just take the reception count. McPherson or Hopkins at kicker this week? Most likely going to be a Hopkins play there. Dustin Hopkins for the Cleveland Browns at home. Really good kicker. Amongst all kickers last season was top 4 in terms of points per game. Obviously missed a little bit of time last season due to an injury, but when he's on, he's on. And Deshaun Watson in that offense kicks a lot of field goals because, again, Deshaun can't finish the job there. Forsaken says, thoughts on Likely? Yeah, I mentioned it at the beginning of today's live stream. I mean, it looks like it's the beginning of the end of Mark Andrews within the offense, mainly just off of usage alone in terms of, the target favoritism to an extent. So if that's going to continue, I mean, shoot, it's going to be difficult to ignore. Let's go ahead and let me check the super chats that were sent in really quickly. I know I missed a couple so far. Big Al sends in a super chat. Thank you, Big Al. Appreciate it. Says Neighbors or Godwin in a standard league. In a standard format, 0 points per reception, I'd probably rather just play Neighbors there. If I'm just basing it off yards alone, the potential for a touchdown upside, I'll take the Neighbors play. Matt Davis says, have an issue starting Connor and McBride together. Okay, what's the more context to this, Matt? What's your alternative options? If you can do me a favor, type it in the chat. Thank you. Rex sends in a super chat. Thank you, Rex. Says, if Higgins and Chase are out, is Gesicki a good tight end pick? The thing is, the Patriots are pretty good against tight ends, and a lot of their personnel stays the same. Gerard Mayo is going to run a very similar style defense to what Belichick has done. Of course, Gerard Mayo is a disciple of him, and obviously very familiar with that kind of a defensive approach. So I wouldn't objectively say that we're going to have a great revenge game out of Gesicki in the absence of these other options, primarily because this offense really just doesn't utilize their tight end position at a vast rate. Sure, the last season, I think they had 115 tight end targets within 17 games. What does that total out to? 115 divided by 17, about nearly 7 per game. But they like to utilize a rotation. So they're going to get Tanner Hudson also in the mix. They're going to get other guys. So within that overall sketchiness, I don't know if it makes him like an objectively great play to where I'm like fired up and starting him over other guys that I mentioned already earlier this week within the tight end rankings video, but he'd definitely then be on the radar now if in fact Chase and Higgins are out. Thank you for the question, Rex. Okay. Looking for the context for Matt Davis. Again, once you can type that in, it'd be greatly appreciated. Hong says, Yoshi or Shakir? Probably Shakir for right now, until we get more information regarding Yoshi and whether or not Jamar Chase is in, out, etc. But Yoshi's the primary slot receiving option there, so he should see himself a pretty good amount of work. El Jefe says, how concerned are we about DK being shadowed by Patrick Surtain this week? The thing is, I've seen DK shadowed by a lot of elite wide receivers, and he still performs well. Like, there will be games because of his ability to make plays after the catch and his ability to make plays within the deep ball receiving game. There have been plays over the years where I look at the matchup and I think to myself, damn, this is a tough one. And still, regardless of that, DK still performs. So if it was a lesser receiver, like if it was someone like, let me think about the like if it was, for example, Josh Palmer, right, going up against Patrick Surtain, I'd feel far less confident rather than sending out DK in that scenario. You know what I mean? Josh Jacobs or Travis Etienne in a PPR week 1? In a full PPR, I have Travis Etienne ranked higher. I mean, you're starting them both, though. I don't know why we wouldn't. Available tonight. Let's see here. What is the official Packers running backs? So, Marshawn Lloyd is inactive. It's Jacobs, Emmanuel Wilson, Ellis Merriweather, whoever the heck that is. So officially inactive is Marshawn Lloyd, which again makes Josh Jacobs a pretty solidified play. So probably I should go back now to the underdog play here. I'm actually curious if I refresh this, did they get rid of his reception count? Because they may be already altering some of Josh Jacobs' numbers here because of that designation. No, it's still sitting there. I think I'm going to take this, guys. This is probably the play that I'll make for today. It's a lot of reliance on the Christian Watson. Oh, man, you know what? Okay, I'm going to wait for a second here. This Christian Watson play gives me, I don't know, my stomach is starting to turn. But we'll leave this up for now until I figure out what I want to do. I could leave it to 2 legs, but yesterday was a 3-leg. Actually, no, it was a free one yesterday. Maybe I just leave it at this. Maybe we'll make multiple plays, but for right now, we'll just take this. Decisions we must make. Hassan sends in a super chat. Thank you, Hassan. Hey, Andrew, in a full PPR double flex league, Metcalf, McLaurin, okay, as your flex. Bench is JSN, Sutton, Palmer, and Gibson. Should I stay like, should I leave it as is? Yeah, leave it as is, Hassan. You're good to go. Thank you. Matt Davis, okay, says, I don't really have any good options besides Connor at my running back. My only backup is Dowdle and McLaughlin. Do you have an issue with having McBride and Connor in the same lineup? No, absolutely not. Like, it's just like any other running back / tight end. Like, if, for example, if I have Isaiah Pacheco and Travis Kelce on the same team, I don't think they're vulturing each other's touches to where I'm having a less efficient lineup. Like, if they perform well, they perform well. regardless of whether they're on the same team. It's just a matter of their opportunities are, they don't intersect. Sure, Connor can get himself receiving upside, but Trey McBride's not digging into the rushing utilization. It's completely different positions. I have no issue starting 3 players on one team, much less 2. Henry sends in a super chat. Thank you, Henry Highland. Says Aaron Jones or T. Higgins in a half PPR. Aaron Jones. Even if T. Higgins plays, I'll take Aaron Jones there. But I don't expect to see T. Higgins play. What do we do? Do I figure out what I want to do here? Add a Jalen Hurts touchdown to the bet. Says, okay, but which kind of touchdown? Like, that's the thing. Do I get vulture protection on a quarterback? I doubt it, right? It has to be running backs. Yeah, no. Okay. So we'll leave it as it is for now. It's got to be a Green Bay receiver. Maybe I take an A.J. Brown play here. 5.5 receptions for AJB. What was his numbers at last season? A.J. Brown. He had, a career high receptions and targets last year, but back end of the year was injured. Prior to the injury, what is this? We have 4, 6, 5, 9, 8, 5, 1. In these, there's a lot of games where he's getting 6 or more receptions. A lot of them. In fact, we have 10, 11 of the last 14 healthy games. That's not a bad number. That's not a bad number at all. Saquon anytime touchdown. Shoot. Do we get double vulture protection? Technically you do, right? You get double vulture protection in case. So under the assumption that Jalen Hurts steals the touchdown in a rushing manner, Saquon would be fine here. That's not bad either. If I'm getting double vulture protection, not bad. Could be decent. Looking at the chat, we have Lamosity, who says, single flex. Should I start Christian Kirk, Ramondre Stevenson, Terry McLaurin, or Deontay Johnson? I'd probably play Ramondre out of the group. Levi says, half PPR, start 2. Brian Thomas Jr., McLaurin, Neighbors, Shakir, Hubbard. Thanks for the content. Thank you. Out of the group in a half PPR, I'm probably starting Neighbors number 1 and Hubbard number 2 out of the group there, Levi, in a half PPR. Let's see here. Falcon Beast 9 says, full PPR flex, Dobbs or Pollard? Probably playing Pollard there this week. Thank you. Lamosity says, who should I start? Okay, so we already took care of that. Thank you, Lamosity. Appreciate it. Michael Schmidt in the chat says, what do you think about Kelsey and Mahomes? Should I swap Tua and Ferguson? Or think this week was a fluke? And again, they played against the Baltimore Ravens defense. They're a really good defense. They take on Cincinnati next week. Again, I'm assuming a shootout in that kind of scenario as well. Kelsey, again, is going to get vultured. Not vultured, but he's going to get... vultured is on my mind because of the protection, but Kelsey is going to get a lot of his value siphoned from Rashee Rice in that slot role. That's the issue. It's not to say that you're replacing him for Ferguson, but do not be surprised if, again, going forward, we see similar performances as such in certain circumstances, which, again, the defensive matchup is as elite as Baltimore's defense currently is. Chris says full PPR, 6 point per passing touch, or 6 point per touchdown. Ayuk, Pickens, or Kirk start 2. Probably end up playing in a full PPR. Considering the quarterback situation in Pittsburgh, I'm leaning towards Ayuk and Kirk as of right now. There, Chris. Michael Amato sends in a super chat. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. Says, happy Football Friday, Andrew. That's right. Here's my issue. I went 0 running back, like always. I took Freiermuth in the mid-draft, likely in the late draft. I feel like last night could literally be his best game. How do I handle tight end? I don't know if that'll be... Well, it could literally be his best game. You're not wrong. But going forward, I'd rather have the starting tight end of the Baltimore Ravens, or I'd rather have the premier tight end of the Baltimore Ravens in my lineup rather than the premier tight end of the Pittsburgh Steelers, unless, of course, we see differently. I know Freiermuth just got his bag earlier today, which is beautiful. Congratulations to him, but there may be some potential where we get competition between the two. Otherwise, it's likely all the way. The A.J. Brown receptions is gone right after you said it. No shot. Oh my God, it is gone. Hold on, let me refresh. There's no shot. That's a thing, right? There's no way they're watching me as we do this. Surely that's not what's happening. Wait, no, it's still here. Yeah, look, it's here. It's here. We're good. Everybody stay calm. Stay calm. All right. AJ Brown or Roma Dunze this weekend, says Jeffrey. Yeah, we're going to play AJ Brown there. 1,000 times out of 1,000. Quaid says Devontae Smith or Jalen Waddle, full PPR. I think I have Jalen Waddle ranked higher still. Steve in the chat says, hey, Andrew, would you start both Gibbs and Montgomery or flex Dell instead in a full PPR? I would play both Gibbs and Montgomery. I don't want to lose any value in the backfield. Hey, Andrew, bring Barkley's receiving yards. You can bring Barkley's receiving. Where's his number? Let's see here. 9.5. Where is it? I don't even think he has receiving yards, does he? Receptions. He ain't got nothing else, right? Longest reception, 10.5. Rushing yards in the first quarter, 15. I feel like that should be eclipsed, but hey, you know. Longest rush, 15.5. Receptions, etc. Blah, blah, blah. Evans, Marvin Harrison Jr. Okay, there you go. Start Hurts or Stroud. I'd rather play Jalen Hurts. Javonte Williams or Christian Watson. I'd rather play Javonte Williams there. Would you start Montgomery over Javonte? Yes. Even in a full PPR, I would. James Conner, Jerome Ford, or Zach Moss. As it currently stands, it depends on the scoring format they're having. If it's a full PPR, I'd probably play Jerome. Otherwise, if it's a half, I'd lean towards James Conner most likely. Jeff with the super chat. Thank you, Jeff. Jeff says Rashad White, Devon Achane, or Mixon. I need 2 in a full PPR. Rashad White and Achane are your starts this week. Thank you. I have Brock Purdy and Jaden Daniels. Should I trade for a quarterback? Nope. Keep them as is. It's a tough matchup this week for Purdy, but he'll probably be your guy for the remainder of the season. You can start Jaden Daniels this week, though, in his stead. You can scroll down to 9.5 unless they took it down. I believe they took it down. Yeah, this is it. Receptions, low. Yeah, they took it down. Listen, these numbers are moving. The game's about to start in what? Less than about an hour and a half, I think. What time is the actual start time of this game? Let's see here. Pistol Picks on Twitter says, I love Saquon and Bijan, London, Smith. Okay. I have London. Sorry. Hold on. Okay. This is his roster. He added me on Twitter. I'm assuming you're in this chat. Pistol P Picks. You have Love, Saquon, Bijan, London, Smith, Evan Ingram. Higgins is your flex. Okay, so we're going to replace Higgins this week. What else do you have available? Luke McCaffrey. Okay. So you probably end up playing Christian Watson in your flex there because of the Higgins situation. Going to drop Mooney for likely, but who do I replace in the flex? Yeah, just play Christian Watson there in your flex for this week. Okay, yeah. At this point, I think I want to leave it as is. What is it? Like a 6 point? Yeah, it's a 6x, 6.1x for these 3 plays. Not terrible. I kind of want to add more to it, but decisions. How does this work? Oh, yeah. Vulture protection is... I want it to hit, though. That's the thing. I don't want to get vulture protected. I just want to get an actual straight hit. He has 17.5 receiving. Oh, it's right here. I'm blind as a bat, guy. Sorry. Worthy going to be featured 8-1. Okay, I don't even know what that means. Oh, he's okay. You're answering somebody else's question. Got it. Richie says, "Hey Andrew, assuming Higgins and Chase don't play, 4 point per passing touchdown, Fields or Burrow? Assuming Wilson's out, I think I'd legitimately play Fields. I'm not even joking." Lamosity says Richardson / Love at quarterback and Barkley Kamara at running back. Should I trade Love for Jacobs? Yes. Wait, hold up. You're in a Superflex league. If you're in a Superflex league, Lamosity, I'd say probably not, unless your third quarterback's good. If you're playing in a 1 QB league, then yeah, why wouldn't you? Trench Purdy. I think you meant bench Purdy, but it's all good. Falcon Beast 9 says in a super chat, says, what about a full PPR Pollard or Curtis Samuel? I'd probably still play Pollard there. I know Curtis Samuel got a clear designation, so he's fine, but as of right now, probably leaning towards still playing Pollard in that circumstance. Let's see here. Kamikaze says, do I trade Chuba Hubbard for Ferguson? My tight end is Taysom Hill, and I have Gibbs, Achane, Chase, Brown and Brian Robinson Jr. Yeah, I don't mind that. That's a fine trade. I have no issue with that at all. Goddard or Freiermuth this week? It says Sebastian wins. I'd rather play Freiermuth this week. If anything, Goddard's the guy that I go after and I take less on his like fantasy point total. Like, what is his fantasy points at? 8.15. Like, this is the guy that I would, if I'm gonna ever pick a lower, it's on him. Because tight ends are sketchy. Look, like yesterday, right? Isaiah Likely came out of nowhere, beautiful game. Xavier Worthy had his pop performance, beautiful. Who is going to do it in this game? There's going to be somebody that we're not expecting to score. That's why when I have these featured as my double, like, this scares me. I only just want to play one of these backs in this circumstance. Like, who's going to be the random player that comes out of nowhere? Is it Jahan Dotson who scores a touchdown? Is it Dontavion Wicks? Like, what does the play look like? Devontavion Wicks is 2.5 receptions. What did he do last season this year? Dontavion Wicks last year at the back end of the year. What are we looking at in terms of receptions? In the playoffs, 0 and 2. And that's not good. Okay, very well, Dontavion Wicks. Thank you very much for contributing to our potential play. Dobbs over 40.5 receiving yards. I'm almost feeling like all three of the main guys, all three of these guys have a capability of going over on every single one of their stats. They even just moved Christian Watson up a yard. Yeah, they just moved him up. He was, I swear to God, it was 40.5. Like, that's just creeping up slowly because, again, the assumption is that he should be able to get it. It says 3 receptions over. I mean, technically, he's supposed to get 4. And it's a 1.3. Why is it a 1.13 multiplier for 4 receptions? Is Watson not capable? Is that what they're thinking? Let's see here in terms of Watson stats. Where were we at last season prior to injury? Okay, prior to injury. Okay, so that game I don't even count against Detroit because he was limited in that game. Otherwise, 3-3-3-1, 2-2-5-7. And the last 2 games he played in the playoffs, 1 apiece. That's why his numbers are so low. Because, again, even in games in which he's fully healthy, he still is he is going to be, he's Xavier Worthy of tonight. He's going to touch the ball 3 times. If he scores twice, we won't even be surprised. You know what I mean? JJ913 says, hey, Andrew, Browns defense or Vikings defense this week? I prefer the Browns defense this week. Thank you. Let's see here. Do we have any indication as to, okay, let's hear. Packers out list week 1. Like, is there anybody that's maybe I go to Twitter and they have a let's see here. Packers Eagles. So is there any designation as to whether or not Tucker Kraft is playing? Because if Tucker Kraft is out, I'll take the Musgrave play and I'll just go for it. Packers inactives for tonight. Malik Heath, Marshawn Lloyd, Aaron Mosby, Brenton Cox. Yeah, no, there's no. Okay, so Tucker Kraft is playing. Never mind. I'm not taking that play. Brian Thomas Jr. or Watson in a full PPR. I'd probably play BTR or BTJ. Vikings have New York Giants. Yeah, they do. They certainly do. I mean that Cleveland defense is no joke for fantasy. Let's see here. Jerome Ford or Devontae Smith in a half PPR. That's a good one. Let me check where we have half PPR. Ford or, okay, so we have Jerome Ford there. I have Devontae Smith ahead of him in a half PPR. Anadi says, LOL, I know Andrew wouldn't intentionally skip your question. I myself have been waiting for an hour and 30 minutes for my question. Wait, what? Anadi, I answered your question so long ago. What are you talking about? You're trolling, right? Maybe I answered one of your questions. You didn't hear it? There's no way. Anyway, if I actually didn't, then I mean, of course, there's one of you. There's multiple. I mean, there's one of me, multiple of you. I'll get to the question. We still got time. We got an hour and a half here almost. Let's see here. Where are we at? We took care of that. Robert sent in a super chat. Let's go ahead and find Robert. Where are we at here, Robert? It says in a half PPR, JSN, Brian Robinson Jr. in the flex. Also sent away Montgomery and Puka for Devontae Smith and Kenneth Walker. How did I do? I think I probably rather have Puka and Montgomery, Robert. As for your prior question, JSN or Brian Robinson Jr. for the week 1, I'd probably end up rolling with Brian Robinson there. All right, Anadi, where are you at, my man? Okay, here we go. Anadi says, hey, Andrew. Thoughts on my team? We have Jalen Hurts, JT, Barkley, Ford, Stevenson. Okay, so you got pretty good running back depth, to say the least. My wide receivers are Devontae Smith, Higgins. Okay, Godwin. At least you have Godwin for this week. Very well. Njoku's my tight end. Should I upgrade the wide receiver room? The plan would be yes, you want to upgrade the wide receiver room. The only way in which you can actually do so is by trading one of your running backs, though. Higgins is dealing with an injury, so that definitely doesn't help. But if Shakir and Godwin can carry until Higgins returns, or if you could potentially flip one of your running backs, the thing is, you don't really want to move one of your running backs in case of an injury taking place or the potential of starting one of them in your flex every week. So it's almost because of the lack of positions on this team, because of the 12-team league and the lack of bench spots, you're almost positioned in a way to where you kind of have to keep it as is, unless there's a potential point in which, unless there's a point in which you have to make a trade because you have ultimately just more injuries than you can handle. Read over on 3.5 receptions. I'm thinking the same thing, man. I'm thinking the same thing. I'm thinking Reed. I'm thinking Dobbs. What happened here with Devontae Smith's number? Did they take it away from me? Hopefully not. Where'd my Devontae Smith number go? All right. I think this is the play I'm going to make. I think I'm not going to go crazy with anything else. Actually, I do want to go crazy. Damn it. What do I want to do? Jordan Love passing yards could be a deal. Passing touchdowns could be a deal. Decisions. It went back down to 40.5, by the way. And then Jaden Reed's number just went up. I don't know who's cooking behind this the door here, but it's definitely cooking. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. All right. Eddie J, thank you very much. Eddie says the following. Ridley, Keon Coleman, A.D. Mitchell. Yeah, for sure we're going to play Ridley there. Kelsey or likely rest of the season. As of right now, I'm not willing to deem likely better than Kelsey for the remainder of the season. There's just, it's too early to overreact at that capacity. I understand that he's going to be of value, but I don't know if he's greater than Kelsey. I mean, if you have Kelsey already and you're thinking of picking up, likely you should, because then you can either trade one of the two. Let's see here. All right, good to go. Anadi in the chat says, I would check safety net 11, though he said, yeah, but I already answered that one. I don't know what you're talking about, Anadi. Brian T says, Jaden Reed or JSN, struggling. Yeah, I'd play Jaden Reed there. You want to go JSN? Play JSN. I mean, in terms of my current rankings, I'm pretty sure I have them. Let's see, Reed and JSN. I have them relative. Yeah, because Lockett's playing, I'd just rather play Reed there. James G says, just curious what your take is, Andrew. Okay, I don't even know what we're talking about. A lot of the comments in the comment section are just talking to each other, so I'm just going to chill and just let it roll until I actually see a question that's targeted at me. For example, Ghetto Janitor says, I have Anthony Richardson that we have as my quarterback. Do I bother trading Kyron and another player for Jonathan Taylor? In other words, a QB/RB stack, a bad play? I don't think it's a bad play. I think you're pretty much just securing that you're getting every single rushing touchdown for the Indianapolis Colts. So I don't see that as a bad play. and a potential move that I would actually consider doing it. Safety Net says, yeah, I have the receipt from, it looks da-da-da-da, so about 40 minutes ago. Safety Net, are you saying I didn't answer your question? Because I did. Oh, no, I can guarantee you, Safety Net, you can go back in the VOD, 1,000% I answered your question. 1,000%. I literally told you in a half PPR, I would sit Neighbors out of the 3. I 100% even remember answering the question. So if you missed it, you missed it. Don't blame me. Don't blame me. You got to be here. Jordan Love, 23 of 35, 287, and 3 passing touchdowns. That's your humble opinion, huh, Jonathan? Joris says, I have Purdy and okay, as my quarterback / tight end. Okay. Do I need to trade up? Yeah, probably, Joris. Taysom Hill as your starting tight end every week is going to be sketchy. That's to say the least. BTJ or Ridley? We'll probably play Ridley in this week. How do we feel about Jalen Hurts and Brown stack? Really good. Why wouldn't you feel comfortable about that, right? It must have been an ad. Yeah. You're good, safety. You're good. Because that's the thing. I don't want anybody to feel like they sent in a super chat and I didn't answer them. Because obviously you're giving me your hard-earned, dineros. And at no point do I ever want to, get into a situation where I don't answer your question. So I trust me, I look at that more than anything else. Because I don't want anybody thinking that I didn't answer their question. So whenever people are like, oh, you didn't answer my question, I'm like, wait a minute. What are we talking about here? Everybody, that's my number one priority when I do these streams. Making sure that those super chat questions are answered. They may not be instantly answered because, again, I'm trying to catch up for majority of the time, but they are answered. All right, let's see here. Would you drop the Niners defense for the Vikings this week? I don't know if I'm technically Look, I don't want to drop the Niners defense. Like, sure. Because look at this. Okay, so when I look at the upcoming schedule for the Niners, right? They have the Vikings next week. The week after that, they have the Rams. The Niners have beaten the Rams like 90% of the time during the regular season. Then they have the Patriots. Then they have the Cardinals. Like 3 of the next 4 matchups after this week are going to be really enticing plays. So most likely would just like to keep them and play them this week. C. Crip says Jacobs or Connor in a full PPR. Rather play Jacobs. Rather play Jacobs for sure. Geno or Stafford? Rather play Stafford this week. Scary Terry or Devontae Smith? Devontae Smith. Is likely good enough tight end for the rest of the season? He should be. You don't get 12 targets by accident. Like that's just the fact of the matter. You don't get those targets by accident. Bassa B says Geno or Stafford. Yeah, we'll take Stafford there. Bassa, thank you. Jeb Cohen sends in a super chat. Thank you, Jeb. Offered Christian McCaffrey and Olave for Breece Hall, Marvin Harrison, and Aaron Rodgers. My starting quarterback is Josh Allen. Take it, right? Offered Christian McCaffrey and Olave for your Breece Hall, Marvin Harrison, and Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, we take that. The thing is, Jeb, you need to go and you need to pick up Jordan Mason. If you don't have Jordan Mason, it would scare me. Dilo says, what does it say? Braden, the kicker for the Packers, was good for 62 in warm-ups. He's locked in. Good for 62. All right, hold up. Can I look this damn name up? What do we have here? 1.5, 3, okay, 6 kicking points. I wish they had like a plus 50-yard, field goal kicked. That'd make it a little bit more appealing potentially. Likely is basically a wide receiver. Yeah, but he plays in the inline a lot. The inline is if they pretty much play their hand in the dirt right next to an offensive tackle, for those of you who are wondering what the terminology means. So at this point, probably, yes, he's a wide receiver to an extent based on the volume, but yeah. It's kind of crazy. Blaze says, I need my own channel. I'm get everybody winning leagues. Blaze, do it. Go for it. Honestly, I tell people all the time, man, why not? If you got time to be in a chat and answer questions, make the channel. If you need help, shoot me a DM and I can give you advice on different things to do. But yeah, why not? Let's see here. Tyler in the chat says, "Hey Andrew, new subscriber here. Is Kamara a realistic offer to get Jacobs? Is Kamara a realistic offer to get? No, I don't think so. If it's a full PPR, I could justify it, certainly, because I think at that point it's a little bit closer. But straight up 1-for-1, I think Jacobs is just the better of the two. Because the thing about Jacobs is there's no Taysom Hill coming out of nowhere to yoink opportunity. That's the thing. And Jacobs is associated with an offense that has already proven to be, we're going to support an RB1 in Aaron Jones for multiple years. Jacobs just has a better team surrounding him, better offensive line, better offense, everything. So I'd say Jacobs just clearly is the advantage point between the two. Let's see here. We have a question from Tampa Bay Trade Day. It says, "Yo, can someone tell me how many more minutes until Packers kick off?" Yeah, I think it's probably an hour, so 60 minutes. I believe the game starts at 5:15 p.m. PST. Christian McCaffrey said he'll play in week 1. Yeah, he'll play in week 1, but is he gonna cook in week 1? Dilo sent me he sent me a post on Twitter, says Packers kicker Braden good for 62. Okay, dude. Oh man. Maybe I'll make another underdog play. Okay, you know what? We're just gonna make this play. We're gonna take this one. That's it. I'm done with it. I've thought about it too long. We'll take this one. This will be this play. If I put another one together, I'll let you guys know. Okay? Good to go there. Moving back to the full screen. Smooth Criminal Entertainment says, "Hey Andrew, better bench, stash, Ty Chandler or Mitchell? I'd rather have Mitchell between the two of them. Thank you." All right, there's a couple super chats sent in. Let me go ahead and address those really quickly. We took care of Jeb, we took care of Basa. Let's scroll back down. We have D, who says, "Should I flex Jaden Reed or Brian Thomas Jr.?" Between the two of them, I'm leaning towards Jaden Reed, regardless of scoring format. As for the follow-up question, we have one from John Kaiser, or Koziar, excuse me, who says, "What do you think about Xavier Legette and Jalen Polk?" Legette is definitely of value if, in fact, Bryce Young is a far better quarterback than what we anticipated this offseason. So if he's going to be significantly better in the way in which Dave Canales has improved Baker Mayfield and Geno Smith the last couple seasons, and he makes, obviously, Bryce Young look like the number 1 overall quarterback that he was selected to be, then Xavier Legette could very easily be a top 36 wide receiver. He's got the pedigree, he's got the skill for it. He just needs to stay healthy. As for Jalen Polk, he is technically a quote-unquote starter. The other starting wide receivers on that team are KJ Osborne and DeMario Douglas. The issue is the easier receptions, the slot receiving work may not go to Polk, which may make it a little bit more difficult for us to trust his upside within the upcoming weeks here. Let's see here. After John's question, again, thank you, John. Elmis says, "Should I drop Cleveland's defense for Seattle's defense this week?" Who does Cleveland play in the future weeks? I'm curious if you drop them, if in fact somebody else in your league is going to pick them up. So they play against the Jaguars the week after, and then they have the Giants, the Raiders, the Washington Commanders. Okay, so you could probably drop them this week, play Seattle for 2 weeks, then subsequently after try to pick them up because they play against the Giants in week 3, the Raiders in week 4, and the Commanders in week 5, which I would like to have them in all 3 of those scenarios. Otherwise, you keep them and just tank the potential losses that you may incur or accrue in the next coming matchups here. Somebody asked Philly or Tampa defense. Wendy, I have Tampa's defense ranked higher this week. Vlad sends in a super chat. Thank you, Vlad. Burrow, Aaron Jones, Devin Singletary, Chase, Nakua, Christian Watson, Green Bay wide receiver. Okay. Michael Pittman Jr., Laporta, 49ers defense, Fair Baron. What do you think about the starting lineup? As it currently stands, Devin Singletary as your RB2 scares me. But again, they play against Minnesota, which isn't that terrible of a matchup. Aaron Jones is great. Burrow, I'm a little bit worried about because, of course, his wide receivers are getting injured. Chase is in your lineup, which, again, he may be at a limited capacity. So those are the biggest concerns. Burrow, Chase, Singletary. The rest of it is pretty square across the board, Vlad. What are the other potential options do you have at quarterback? Stafford on the waivers, maybe? Space Bjorn says, RIP T. Higgins owners, Rashid Shaheed, Judy, or Mike Williams, or even Brandon Cooks this week. Out of the available options, I'd venture to say, is it Rashid Shaheed or is it Brandon Cooks? Rashid Shaheed in a new offense. Okay, I think A.T. Perry's not playing. So I think it's Rashid Shaheed. Let me go to my injury report list. Yeah, A.T. Perry's questionable. Let me see. Did he practice today? I got to go actually check that out. If he did, in fact, practice, then at that point, it's less of a potential option. But let me check accordingly. A.T. Perry did not practice at all this week. He got a DNP designation, did not practice on Friday. So if, in fact, A.T. Perry does not play, I'll take Shaheed there. Otherwise, it's probably Brandon Cooks in that scenario. Thank you, Space Bjorn. J. Cred 101 says Burrow or Cousins. I got to think about that one. That one I got to think about. I don't know if okay. If Burrow doesn't have his starting receivers, if Chase and Higgins are out, I'm playing Kirk Cousins. I'd legitimately play Kirk Cousins there. Bossa B says standard. Jerome Ford or Zamir White. I would play Zamir White this week there in a standard scoring format, 0 points per reception. Bossa, thank you. Anadi says, Andrew, not necessary a fantasy quarterback, but do you ignore the... Andrew, not necessarily a fantasy... I don't understand what you're talking about, Anadi. What does that mean? Fantasy question, bro, this autocorrect. Oh, Andrew, not necessarily a fantasy question, but do you ignore the criticism? That was your question? I see what you're saying. Let me get to that in a second. Let me get to Roy Powell's question real quick. It says, thoughts on throwing week 1 for higher waivers? I have Taysom at my... Oh, I see what you're saying. So if you're saying that if you lose week 1 and you put up a lesser score, you throw it in order to get Isaiah Likely. I don't think I can do that. I don't think I can throw a week 4 player. I don't know if that's in my my DNA. Jordan Love, 18.5 fantasy points over, question mark. I would like to assume that he's capable of it. I'd like to assume that he accomplishes it. In fact, look, here's the thing. Jordan Love has had 2 or more touchdowns in 15 of the last 19 games he's played. He's pretty well off to get himself a pretty good volume of points. I mean, really all he needs is 250 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns. What does that make? That's 8, 9, 10. That's 18 points. He would just need like 5 rushing yards and we're good to go. No interceptions. Pretty safe. As to answering your question, Anadi, ignore the criticism. The thing is, like, criticism, especially in what I do, is very dependent, right? You can criticize the suggestions I make in terms of players on a given week, but I mean, the reality is there are so many variables in football and in fantasy football that the predictions of player projections in a given week are so difficult to analyze and accurately predict at 100% rate to where, like, if someone wants to say, hey, Andrew, you did a shit job at projecting Kelsey and Mark Andrews. I mean, shoot, yeah, that's fine. Because with all the research I've done, nothing would tell me to do otherwise, right? So if you could find anybody else that's doing the opposite, hey, go to them. If they can find you like if they told you before the season started Isaiah Likely was going to outproduce Mark Andrews and they were confident about it, shoot, that's someone that can see into the future. But otherwise, I do so much research, I do so much work to find my projections that I don't really feel like criticism really does anything, because I wouldn't have changed my it wouldn't theoretically change the way I go about my business anyway. And I've done it at this rate and at this capacity for multiple years to where like I trust my process. You know what I mean? Chico says Baker over Burrow. That one I don't mind either. Jerome Ford or Najee, says Armin. Armin, I'm taking Jerome Ford there. Brendan says Debo or Waddle in a full PPR. I'll take Debo there. Mr. Thomas 03 says Jaden Daniels or Justin Fields. Jaden Daniels. John Silva says full PPR. DJ Moore, Deontay Johnson, Odunze, Coleman. Kind of second guessing myself with Snead on DJ Moore. I wouldn't second guess yourself. You play DJ Moore and Deontay Johnson there if you have two options. Otherwise, DJ Moore is the number one. Darth Raider says Tank Dell or Chase Brown in a half PPR. In a half PPR, I'd probably play Tank Dell there. Greetings and salutations, Andrew, says CJ. In a full PPR, who do I flex? Christian Watson, Joshua Palmer, Mixon, Ford, or Najee Harris? Out of the group, I'd play Mixon there. Big Daddy says Kenneth Walker or Mixon. I'm playing Kenneth Walker. I'd love them both in terms of running back plays this week, but I do prefer Kenneth Walker in the circumstance of the matchup. Okay, we took care of that. Moving on, we have Timbo who says, any thoughts on Luke McCaffrey? I think he's a decent pickup. He's going to be a starting receiver. As to how much utilization we get out of him, I mean, we know that if he's going to play as the primary slot receiving role, we've talked about it this offseason. I had a lot of high hopes for Jahan Dotson under the assumption that he was going to retain the slot receiving role of that offense. Obviously, he's no longer a member of the Washington Commanders. So Luke McCaffrey as the primary slot of a Cliff Kingsbury offense is very promising, especially considering if we go back in prior seasons, the way that, you know, a guy like Cliff Kingsbury utilized his slot receivers, Larry Fitzgerald, Christian Kirk, Greg Dortch, Rondell Moore. He is highly utilized the slot receiving role. So Luke McCaffrey, if he is the mainstay there and they're going to run a lot of 11 personnel, which they should, he should be a pretty, serious option for a potential pickup on the bench prior to the week beginning. Because if you let it happen and he pops off, then we're in trouble. Clem is just spamming characters. Clem, I'm going to give you about 15 seconds, brother. Oh, he's spamming Eagles. Okay, I was going to say, Clem, if you keep spamming, brother, we're going to have to get you banned here. Goodness gracious. Moss or Addison in a half PPR? Probably Moss there. Raider Otter says Tyjae Spears or Ezekiel Elliott. I think it's very dependent on scoring format. I think objectively, if I was in a standard league, I'd play Zeke for touchdown upside. If I'm in a half PPR, full PPR, I'd probably lean towards Tyjae Spears there, Raider. Eric Holmes says Warren or Javonte Williams in a PPR. We'll take Javonte Williams there. Kenneth Walker or Joe Mixon, we took care of that. John says Andrews lined up in the slot and took on cornerback coverage. Likely is in the inline. Yep. Got better matchups against linebackers. Yeah, but this is the thing too. Go watch back that game. A lot of the receptions that he, obviously he made a huge reception down the field and then he made defenders miss, but there were like 5 different receptions where he's literally just running a arrow to the sideline. He's running a straight route, literally from the snap, turns his shoulders and runs straight to the sideline, and Lamar just dumps it to him, and then he makes 5 yards out of it consistently. Like those kind of valuable, opportunities are stuff that is going to make, fantasy points out of thin air, which is beautiful. Kyler Murray or Jordan Love? I believe I have Kyler in a 4-point per passing touchdown higher ranked. Let me confirm this. Let me go to my quarterback rankings right now. As it currently stands, no, actually I'm looking at it right now. Jordan Love 8, Kyler Murray 9. So it would be the Jordan Love play. Thank you for the question. Hopefully the clarification was not confusing. Sorry. Let's see here. Mahmoud HK2 sends in a super chat. Thank you. Rate my team. I'm in a 1 quarterback, 2 flex format, half PPR. We have Kyler at quarterback, followed by Kenneth Walker and Ramondre at running back. Okay, so you took a little bit of a discount at running back, but hopefully the rest of the positions are at advantage. Amon-Ra, Drake, McBride, very good. Deontay Johnson, Christian Kirk, very good. Bench consists of Anthony Richardson, which I don't think you need, especially considering you have Kyler already. I would look to try to trade that away as soon as possible, or trade Kyler away and keep Anthony Richardson. But again, I'm assuming you have them both because of injury risk, because of, the injuries that have taken place over the last couple seasons here. Zach Moss is also another running back on roster, which again, him and Chase Brown, you'll end up finding out who the starter is, which is good. You have Dobbins, you have Adunze. Yeah, I think your glaring weaknesses are at running back and the fact that you took an additional quarterback you maybe needed not to take. But in a half PPR, I think you have enough depth at wide receiver to sustain your value. I think I'm just looking to probably, if you're not able to do it this week, probably by next week, moving one of these two quarterbacks accordingly. See if you can go get another running back or a wide receiver to give you a little bit more depth in that flex or RB2 spot. Are we starting Baker over Burrow? I mean, again, if Chase and Higgins aren't playing, then yeah, why not? I mean, Baker's against the Washington Commanders secondary. The Commanders cornerbacks, I mentioned it earlier this week, Michael Davis, who is one of their new starting corners, and then Benjamin St-Juste, which is with them last year. Both of them were in top 20 in terms of wide receiver receiving yards allowed last season. They were top 20 amongst all cornerbacks. So if we're going to get another one of these great games out of a Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, McMillan, the new receiver. I know Trey Palmer's on the concussion protocol, could end up playing as well. Cade Otton. Baker could be a really good play this week. He was my number 17. And with Burrow moving down, I mean, I don't know how far Burrow is going to fall from grace, but it could be pretty far. Brandon Ayuk or Chris Godwin week 1. Michael Foreman, I would play Chris Godwin there pretty comfortably, actually. Spamming in any form is not allowed. Go Birds. I mean, listen, he was spamming Eagles, so I give him a break. I give him a break on that one. That one I'm okay with. If he was spamming anything else but, Eagles, we may have had a little bit of an issue, but I think he's fine. Fields named the starter week 1? Question mark, question mark, question mark, exclamation point. No, I don't think he's named the starter. Unless you have information that I do not have information privy to myself because I've been live streaming. I know that Russell Wilson was limited, and I know that Fields did practice with the number 1s today. Then they asked Russell Wilson after practice, hey, what's the deal? Do you plan on playing? He says, yes, I'm trying to get my body ready to play. So he's still questionable. He'll try to give it a go. But yeah, Fields is starting. Guys, he's a top 15 fantasy quarterback to say the least. Marcel says, Saquon versus Jacobs, anytime touchdown. With vulture protection, I mean, honestly, I think you can you know what? That is actually a good point. You know what? Considering vulture protection exists via Underdog right now, why don't we just take them both? Because there's a likelihood that, so based on how this works, if any of them get vultured, it gets a refund, right? Hold on, let me read this again just so we're on the same page. So it says, okay, what's the protection? So, when a touchdown scored is, okay, if a selected player, designated running back, score, okay, you will receive a vulture protection. If a selected player gets vultured, your entry will be recused, and you'll be given a special that appears in the lobby the next day. Yeah, so okay, perfect. So then what are we doing? So in that case, anytime touchdown, and we'll take it. $10 to win 30. Let's see what happens. Bada boom. All right, that's fine. We'll give it a shot. By the way, the crazy play of the week for Andrew, the crazy play of the week. If I go to live pick'ems, this is my crazy. Okay, so I have this from last week. This is my crazy play of the week. Okay, just so we're all on the same page. All right, Christian McCaffrey anytime touchdown. He scored a touchdown in 25 of the last 28 games as a 49er, one minimum. Garrett Wilson 5.5 receptions. CJ Stroud over 1.5 passing touchdowns. I went a little bit overboard on the entry. A little bit overboard. But I believe it's going to hit. I mean, I think so. I'm not saying you should go, spending $1,000 on a bet like I am, but I'm crazy. So, just understand maybe $10 to win 30 or something. That could be a pretty solid game. Pretty solid week. And of course, there it is. Okay. So, moving on, we have the following questions. Chase Brown will outshine Zach Moss as Jonathan Reif. There's a possibility of that. Absolutely. That's what we've been kind of speculating all season. AJ plus Reed over 114 receiving yards. I don't think that's a bad play. Panic level on Mark Andrews and Kelsey. The panic level on Mark Andrews is significantly higher. I mean, significantly. Again, it's not like Noah Gray was out there garnering all the targets away from Kelsey. It was Isaiah Likely out there that was dominating the game and making a name for himself on national television with probably the highest rated, most watched game in NFL history to start a season. I'm assuming that's what the statistics were. Went out there and delivered. So that's, for Mark Andrews, the concern level is high, especially considering I mentioned this earlier. The dude has been the number one target getter in the red zone for the Ravens for the last 5 consecutive years. And the fact that he had 0 red zone targets last night and Isaiah Likely had 3, and all 3 of them could have led to a touchdown. That's the concern. What does vulture mean? It means, so if in fact, okay, so the reason why I put together that play with Saquon and Josh Jacobs. So basically, if your running back gets down to the red zone and they don't score the rushing or receiving touchdown and somebody else out of position scores a touchdown instead, you're saved. Like your overall, the bet you put forth gets pulled out and you're like, all right, you got saved. So basically it's like a free play almost to an extent, assuming the touchdown's stolen. If touchdown's not stolen and there's no red zone touchdowns, then you are out of luck. But it's $10. We'll see how it turns out for Andrew. Number 1 waiver claim, unlikely. I have Njoku. It depends on how the rest of this weekend goes, but you're probably leaning towards the answer of yes. It's when Kenneth Gainwell rushes for 78 yards on a drive and then Saquon punches it in for 1 yard. Exactly. Or in this circumstance, when Saquon runs it all the way down and then Jalen Hurts gets tush pushed into the end zone. That's more of the yoink. Because in your example, Aaron Evans, one running back is stealing from the other running back. This protection only protects you when the running back gets a touchdown stolen from a player that is not considered a running back on roster. So for Kamara this weekend, that's a pretty good overall play to get a vulture insurance on him because, again, pretty good potential considering, of course, Taysom Hill's on that team, Really quickly, I wanted to actually check this real quick. If I go here, do this. Yeah, okay, cool. Good to go. All right, we'll close that. We had another, what time is it right now? 4:30. Okay. We're making good time. Rashee Rice, top 15 rest of the season easy. In a full PPR, potentially. When Marquise Hollywood-Brown comes back, we'll see how that transpires. But again, you got to remember, yesterday it was a concerted effort to get Rashee Rice the ball. There are going to be games in which it's going to be a lot more Kelsey heavy, and when it does, we'll see how Rashee Rice kind of, bodes within that scheme. Lonely B says, do you see Rashee Rice usage yesterday as a sustainable one for the rest of the year? I mean, what did he have? 9 targets, 7 receptions? I think that's more than sustainable, yeah. Dynasty question says, what's the first running back to give up likely for in a 1.75 tight end premium format? Dude, I play in one Dynasty league. I don't even think I'm qualified to answer that question. Let's see here. Jonathan Rife says, is Worthy going to keep producing all year in your opinion? I mean, look, I think it's going to be a lot of volatility. There's going to be up weeks and there's going to be down weeks. He's not going to be able to score 2 touchdowns on 3 touches every week. That is a unsustainable potential, projection for the remainder of the year. And also, I mean, he scored that receiving touchdown because, the cornerback for the Baltimore Ravens there just decided, hey, you know what? I'm going to let him go. I have safety help over the top. Where's the safety help? Didn't exist. Pretty rough. Let's see here. We had a super chat sent from Salted Pork who says, I'm considering a trade offer of Harrison Jr., as in Marvin, and Jordan Love for Mahomes. I have Rice, and I wanted to pair Mahomes and Rice together. Would it be a good trade? I wouldn't do that. No, absolutely not. That's not a good trade. You keep Marvin Harrison, you keep Jordan Love, you're good to go. Salted Pork. You want to have, especially if it's a 1 QB league, you want to have the better players at running back and wide receiver, objectively. And you will take whatever Jordan Love produces. Brandon Cho in the chat says Burrow or Love. Will take Love going forward. Aaron Evans, I was joking because we all know Gainwell isn't doing that. No, I know, but like just in your example, it was running back when it's the way that the only way you're able to take advantage of it, if in fact the vulture is by a player at a different position. I knew you were I knew it was just a hypothetical. Trust me. Yeah, no, Gainwell's not going for 78 yards. James G says, hi, Andrew. Sorry if you missed it, but I had to call to answer. Full PPR, Jamison Williams or Brian Thomas Jr. I'll take Brian Thomas there. Sebastian says, Eagles and Bills are the best for vulture touchdown protection. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely correct. Absolutely. Capital says, or sorry, that's not Capital. It's Capalot. Says, Hurts throws an INT question mark. What, he threw 15 last year, right? It's always a possibility. Tip pass, anything of that nature. Maybe his wide receiver bobbles the ball, gets picked. It's always possible. I'm not rooting for that, or I'm not anticipating that, but we'll see. Big Daddy says, Debo or Mixon in the flex? I'd rather play Debo this week. I like Mixon, but Debo's got so much more upside in my opinion. You think Nick Chubb is a viable use this year eventually? Eventually it could be. Yeah, why not? Look, we know that based on the usage of Jerome Ford with Nick Chubb last year, if you go back to week 1 of last season, Jerome Ford had like 15 rushing attempts in that game. So we know that this team wants to utilize 2 running backs to an extent. They even utilized that once Nick Chubb went down with injury. It was the Jerome Ford / Kareem Hunt show, with both of them being valuable. So I'm probably leaning towards the idea of, even when Nick Chubb comes back and he is at a healthy enough state to where he's good to go, we're assuming at very least he's going to have the value to be a top 36 option within a given week. Probably on the lower end, but until then, we'll see. Jay McLaughlin says, hey, Andrew, with Higgins doubtful, flex 1 in a non-PPR, Brian Thomas Jr., Chase Brown, and Addison. In a standard scoring format, non-PPR, I'd probably lean towards that running back. So I'm probably leaning towards Chase Brown. Nadi says, you already shaded your thoughts on the Bills wide receiver room, right? Sorry if you have. No, I mean, listen, I think as of right now, my projection is that Shakir is going to lead the way. If it goes in other direction, there's always a possibility of that. It's just a matter of Curtis Samuel has the advantage because of his familiarity with the offensive coordinator, Joe Brady. Of course, he was the former offensive coordinator of the Carolina Panthers when Curtis Samuel was there. He was a top 25 wide receiver when he was there with Joe Brady. So Curtis Samuel could be great. Keon Coleman, again, early drafted wide receiver, 2nd round pick, could be immediately a play that could be a value. It's a toss-up as to where it ends up going. I know that Kincaid's going to be the number 1. Everything after that is kind of going forward in terms of, sure, people are going to catch the ball, but who's going to be the consistent option every single week? If we find one, I think it might end up being Shakir. At least that's where I'm kind of leaning towards. B. Van says, full PPR, Palmer, Chase, Brown, Myers, Mooney. Appreciate you all. If I'm picking 2 out of that group in a full PPR, it's probably Palmer and Myers. Moss or Zamir White, full PPR. I'd play Zamir White this week. Evans or Devontae Smith, full PPR. Jeff, I would play Evans. Yep, I would play Evans pretty comfortably. Okay, we took care of that. We're good to go. Okay. Is it statistically irresponsible to start Debo and Kittle? I don't think that's technically statistically irresponsible. I mean, again, you're saying statistically in terms of like, okay, if the 49ers are only going to score 3 touchdowns, 1's guaranteed to McCaffrey, if not 2, is it statistically irresponsible to start the tight end within the matchup under the assumption that there's not as high of a likelihood of him scoring a touchdown in comparison? I could see the argument, but I don't think I am avoiding it because of that. Cameron says, hey, Andrew, do you like Aaron Jones or David Montgomery in a full PPR this week? Let me check my rankings. Full PPR, David Montgomery, Aaron Jones. I have Aaron Jones ranked higher in a full PPR. Cheeky says, half PPR, Moss, Odunze, or Shakir in a flex. I'd probably end up playing Moss. Yeah, good guess there, Cheeky. Jorge Perez says, hey, Andrew, in a full PPR, would you make any changes to my starters out of Hurts? Running backs are Kamara and Kyron. Wide receivers are Dell, Mooney, Devontae. Tight end is Andrews already played. Flex, we have Chase. And then we have Jawan Johnson, Love, Odunze, Palmer, Shaheed, Mike Williams. I mean, out of your starters, your wide receivers are Dell and Mooney. I don't know if I'm playing Mooney this week. I mean, I'm for sure playing Devontae Smith and Dell there. But I don't think I'm playing Mooney there. I think I'd rather play Palmer, at least at this current stance. And then if, in fact, Chase doesn't play, then you can play Mooney in the flex. Okay, we had a super chat that came in from Bacon, who says the following. Full PPR, Deontay Johnson, Moss, or Pollard. I'd play Deontay there. Let me scroll back up into this chat. We had a couple questions that I did see that I wanted to answer, but I've scrolled way past. Okay, so if you guys are still here, Juice in the chat says, I severely overdrafted him. Okay, so that's a completely different comment. That was a different comment. Thomas R says, Kelsey looked old and slow. You're not wrong. Amber says, should I trade Puka and Dell for Chase and Kirk? For For the remainder of the season, I think Chase certainly is going to be more valuable than Puka Nacua, because eventually he'll, of course, have these practices under his belt and he'll be more valuable. So that is great. As for Dell and Kirk, I think they can be very similarly valued. So yeah, I don't mind that trade. Let's see here. Beeman says, Browns or Niners defense this week. I currently have the Browns ranked higher, but they're both in like the top 6. Celtic 5 says, do you think Nick Chubb will have viability? Okay, but he took care of that one earlier. Okay, so I think I caught up on those. Then we move on. Drew says, okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Jorge Perez sends in the following question. Thank you very much, Jorge. Hi, Andrew. In a full PPR, would you make any changes on starting quarter? Okay, so yeah, that's the only difference in terms of changes that I would make there. Constantino Gonzalez says, what's up, Andrew? DK or Godwin? I'd rather play Godwin in a full PPR. Also, DK, Aaron Jones, or Christian Watson? I'd probably play Aaron Jones as that potential flex option accordingly. Sicilian Kyle says, in a half PPR, I have Higgins. Should I start B-Rob or Shakir? That's a really good question. I think in the half PPR, I kind of lean towards playing the running back typically. So that's probably the direction I would go in. Also, how many wide receivers? Also, I have too many wide receivers. Would you get rid of any of them and get another running back, says Jorge Perez? You definitely have a lot of wide receivers. If anything, you get rid of Mike Williams and then potentially go pick up a running back off waiver, if in fact something is available. Ricardo Rodriguez says, greetings and salutations. Singletary or Eckler? I'd play Singletary there. Jacob Stallman says, Zamir White, Mostert, or Ford in a half PPR, start 2. If I'm starting 2 out of those, I'm probably going to... Oh, man. I kind of want to play Zamir with Mostert in a half PPR. That's kind of the way I'm leaning towards right now, Jacob. Yeah, that's probably where I would go. Prodigy says, do I start Spears or Lad McConkey in a full PPR? 0.25 per rush. You play the running back there. Absolutely play the running back. Juice says McLaurin or Dell, full PPR. I'm leaning towards McLaurin just because of the game script and the target volume. Yeah, I think that's probably the safest of the two, for sure. Half PPR, Montgomery or Ford. I'd play Montgomery there, Roy. Non-PPR, Singletary or Godwin. I think in the non-PPR, I'd still take Godwin there. I trust the yardage count just a little bit more. McConkey or Myers. If I'm not mistaken, I have Myers ranked higher. Let me confirm. I know that DJ Chark earlier today was deemed out. He's not going to play in this game, so I could change my rankings accordingly. But for right now, I do have Myers ahead. Hi, Andrew. Can you rank these? Can we rank kickers, please? Sure. So, excluding yesterday's kickers, who I had as my number... Okay, so I had Harrison Bryant as my number 2 on the week. I had Justin Tucker as my number 4 on the week. The other remaining kickers we have, top to bottom, would be Fairbairn, Younghoe Koo, Santos, Moody, Elliott, Hopkins, Sanders, Myers, Aubrey. Got it? Good. All right, really quickly, a reminder, okay? So we're about 30 minutes from kickoff. Thank you guys for showing up. Thank you for clicking the like button. For those of you who sent in super chats, thank you. For those of you who are just, members of the live chat and kept the live chat moving, thank you. Appreciate it. You guys' overall just presence is greatly appreciated. So thank you, first and foremost. Tomorrow, I will be live once again from 1 to 3 p.m. tomorrow. So if you are still, looking to get questions answered, etc., swing on by tomorrow. I try to answer as many questions as I possibly can so far. We'll continue to do so until the end of the stream. I'll also be live on Sunday morning. The difference between this kind of stream and Sunday morning is that on Sunday morning, everything around me, there's no flying confetti. There's straight rankings across the screen, and it'll be my updated rankings at all the positions. So, as of right now, I'm leaning towards the idea of, if you guys want the end-all be-all rankings, Sunday morning. Otherwise, you can check this out. If you sign up, I'll send you the email of my rankings, or you can check out the Patreon. There's a link down in the description for those of you interested. Thank you. Thomas R. says Dicker. Yes, I agree. Dicker was the name after Aubrey, but I just didn't mention it. Yeah, I have Cameron Dicker still up there. Yes. Let's see here. Aubrey last. Yeah, because I don't expect the Cowboys to have that great of an offensive game. But Aubrey's still good. I mean, when we're talking about guys who can kick 50-yard field goals, he's as good as it gets. But yeah, I just don't love the matchup this week for them. Away on the road against a really elite defense, it scares me. Big Daddy says, so having Kittle and Debo isn't a disadvantage? No, I don't see it as a disadvantage. I don't see it at all. Like if I had Marvin Harrison and Trey McBride, how is that a disadvantage? Should I drop McMillan for Fields? If your quarterback is someone that you would potentially sit instead of Fields, then yeah, why not? Should I start Aaron Rodgers or Jerome Ford in the Superflex? YK Matt, I would play Aaron Rodgers there. Chico says Stevenson or Keenan Allen half PPR. Stevenson. We had a super chat came in from Caden Wilkes. Thank you very much. Caden says Henry, Fant, or Bowers this week at tight end. Options are really weak. Honestly, I don't think you have weak options. I'd go Henry number 1, Bowers number 2, Fant number 3. Henry's the play. Thank you. We had Chief, who sends in a super chat, says, who do I drop to pick up Jordan Mason, Corum, or Benson? You have to trade one of them. You don't drop them. You have to trade one. Yep, you got to trade one. Because if you drop them, you are pretty much giving somebody else too much value for free, theoretically. So try to go to the Kyron Williams manager or try to go to the James Conner manager and effectively trade them to them. Legit. Even if it's like, hey, you're only upgrading on defense just to make this trade, because you know you have to pick up Jordan Mason. You just got to make some sort of, you got to do some sort of movement there, because I wouldn't drop either of them. I'd rather just not even have Mason and keep Corum and Benson rest of the season. Chris Johnson sends in a super chat, says Keenan Allen, Curtis Samuel, Christian Watson, pick one. Chris Johnson, what is your scoring format? Because that really does make a huge difference in terms of the suggestion that I make here. I'm leaning towards Keenan Allen for right now, though. Just here to say Luke McCaffrey will be a league winner. Remember this? Neo, I don't disagree. I mean, I told somebody earlier today, you should probably pick up Luke McCaffrey before week 1, because if he's going to get the slot receiving role of a Cliff Kingsbury offense, there's a lot of value to be had within that overall position, especially from what we have seen in the past of the Arizona Cardinal days of Cliff Kingsbury. Cameron says you should do a collab with Josh and Hayden. I'm familiar with both of them. Follow each other on, what's it called? Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. I've played in a league with Hayden before. They're nice guys. Collaboration typically is just a matter of like, does time work? Usually, like, you guys will see it. I don't really collab with anybody, right? I'm just like in my own zone, in my own pocket of this universe. It's not to say that I'm not interested. It's just I don't go seeking the collaboration. If someone wants to say, hey, you're invited on the show, I'm more than happy to join. But otherwise, I stay in my corner. I don't try to press any issues. And I do what I do. You know what I mean? Thanks for your thoughts. Thanks. What are your thoughts on McMillan? So he's clearly won the number 3 receiving spot. He's going to play on the outside, which, again, like we saw from Godwin last season, wasn't as valuable within this offense. So he's still going to be the number 3 receiving option, if not the number 5. So he's the number 3 wide receiver, but he's still going to be behind Evans, Godwin, Rachaad White, Otton, and then it might be McMillan. So he's not really going to be that heavily used, at least from my perspective. John says, Brian Thomas Jr., Jacoby Myers, or Devin Singletary in a full PPR, pick one. I'd play Devin Singletary there, John. Pretty safe across the board. Tyrone Chan says, greetings and salutations. ETN or Drake London in a full PPR flex this week. I'd like to play them both. I think they're both, I mean, again, they're literally top 12 options, both of them. Pre-draft and right now. So ETN's my guy, and that's why I'm going in the direction of, but I'd like to play both. But I mean, obviously you got a stud team. Chris Johnson says full PPR. Yeah, Keenan Allen's the play there in that circumstance. Neo says Kirk is the best, I swear. Thank you, Neo. Appreciate it. John Ross says half PPR. Is Mahomes going to be a low-end QB1 this year? I hope not. Please, God, no. Listen, don't even put that out in the universe. The fantasy gods, please. That was not an actual... We were not hoping that. That is a risk we are not interested in. No, thank you. We do not want that. What do we think about, what does it say? What do we think about sitting Ayuk this week for Christian Watson or Rome Odunze? I would have felt more comfortable starting Rome Odunze if, in fact, Keenan Allen was going to miss. Keenan Allen played practice fully today. So, as of right now, I'm starting Ayuk. Andrew does not believe in the multiverse. I do believe in the multiverse. I mean, just based on just pure statistics, the multiverse has got to be a thing. The universe is too vast for it not to exist. Packers will win, says Neo. Okay, we'll see, man. We'll see. That's a bold prediction right there. Is it? I don't know. They're 2-point underdogs. I don't know if that's a bold prediction per se. Hey, listen, if Dilo's kicker, if the kicker for the Packers is as good as advertised as it was on this stream today, then, you know, could be something going. Are we sleeping on Christian Watson, says Ishmael Ariza. I don't think we're sleeping on him. Look, here's the thing. Christian Watson has always been a matter of, is he healthy? He's healthy now. So if you're ever going to start Christian Watson, it's probably right now rather than ever, you know? So if you're on like the fringe, you're like, hey, do I play Christian Watson or whatever else I have? If it's close enough in your mind, go for it. Because again, we know he is, like I mentioned earlier, he is very Xavier Worthy-esque in the idea that he could touch the ball 3 times today and score 2 touchdowns and no one would be surprised. Are we starting Stevenson or Keenan Allen in a half PPR? Chico, I'd play Stevenson there. Mario says, thoughts on OBJ? Is he going to come back under, is he making a comeback under? Yeah, I don't think so. Listen, he's on the PUP. He's going to miss the first 4 weeks of the season. After he returns, there are too many mouths to feed within that Dolphins offense to support OBJ on a consistent basis. I'm not interested in rostering him this season. Use my number 2 waiver on likely if I have Andrews 2, right? Yes, John. Juan Jimenez says, in a super flex, is it worth keeping Penix, Michael Penix, on my bench if Cousins is, if I'm the Cousins holder, do I drop? I mean, at this point, I don't think you can afford to have a quarterback on roster on your bench that's not going to be someone that you can play on a bye week. That's the issue. So I wouldn't do it. Is there any reason we believe that McLaurin will get put in the slot meaningful amount this year? I don't think we're going to. That would be great, though. Imagine. That'd be crazy. But he's never really been a slot receiving option. And in the preseason, they didn't utilize him in that, overall role. B Van says, would you drop Tank Bigsby, the cuff for ETN, to pick up Luke McCaffrey? Yes, I would. Again, here's the thing. Week 1, guys, is a week in which you want to try to get guys on your bench that have a chance to blow up before they do. Because once they do, if you don't have a high enough waiver priority or if you don't have enough fab for it to just unload the mag, there's just no reason. Yeah, you want to have guys that have potential upside in week 1. Bro, I'm literally on the fence. You've solidified the battle. Greedy salutations. Okay, thank you very much. Shadow says, half PPR, please help me. Choose between Kupp, Moore, McLaurin, and Cooper. As of right now, I'm leaning towards Kupp and Cooper. Shadow. Benjamin says, Dobbs, Keenan Allen, or Chuba Hubbard. If it's a full PPR, it's probably Keenan Allen. If it's a half PPR, I'd go with Chuba Hubbard. If it's a standard, I go with Chuba Hubbard. Mario says, thoughts on Clyde Edwards-Helaire? Is it worth a roster spot? No, he's going to miss the first 4 weeks of the season. He's also additionally dealing with some mental health issues. So likelihood is that it could even take longer than 4 weeks. Best to him. Hope he's able to recover and, obviously find a clear headspace going forward. But yeah, I don't think he's a pickup. Mario says, okay, so we took care of Mario. AH says, higher upside this year, Luke McCaffrey or Jalen Wright? Jalen Wright requires an injury. Luke McCaffrey can do it without an injury taking place, so I'd say McCaffrey. But here's the thing. If you're telling me who do I rather have on the bench, I'd probably still rather have Jalen Wright because you never know. Mostert's 31. Blake Dean says, what's up, Andrew? Hope all is well. It is. Thank you. I just got in, but I wanted to ask you your thoughts on likely Andrew's situation, of course. So we talked about this earlier today, and I'll go ahead and kind of retread my thoughts on it. In that game last night, Mark Andrews played more snaps, and he ran more routes. Yet, despite all of that, Isaiah Likely is the preferred target, 12 targets to 2. Additionally, Isaiah Likely utilized within the red zone far more, and quite frankly, that is where Mark Andrews has found his value throughout his entire career. 0 targets in the red zone in comparison to Likely's 3. Based on what we saw last season in the absence of Mark Andrews due to the injury, it is pretty much solidified for Todd Monken and, of course, Lamar Jackson that Likely's the new guy. He is the new, tight end one of this offense, and going forward, if Mark Andrews is going to survive within the scheme. I mean, they threw the ball 40 times last night, and Mark Andrews got 2 targets. He's going to have to score touchdowns, and until then, it's going to be a sketchy play to kind of put forth him in my lineup. I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm hoping Mark Andrews somehow resurfaces as a top 12 value going forward. We have seen 2 tight ends survive within a offense and both be top 12 in a season before. If you guys remember, just a couple years back, Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert both coexisted. Both were top 12 within that given season. So it's possible. It's not impossible. The only thing is, the Baltimore Ravens have to be number 1 amongst all teams in tight end targets. They have to literally give their tight ends over 220 targets this year to be able to accomplish that. They weren't even close to that number last season under Todd Monken's offense. So likely is the guy. It's long but short. Likely is the guy. Moving on. Answering questions before kickoff. We got another 14. What is this? We have about 19 minutes to kick off. As soon as we get to around 5:15 PST, I'm going to head out. Again, I'll be back tomorrow from 1 to 3 p.m. PST, and then on Sunday morning from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. For those of you interested, I will have rankings on screen ready to go. Thank you. Okay. Again, for those of you who are still here in the live chat, if we can get over 200 likes, that'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you. Who is more of a risk? Saquon Barkley or Kyren Williams? Kyren's more of a risk. Puka Doncic coming back with another question today, says Yoshivas, Shakir, or Taysom? Probably Shakir. If Chase and Higgins are out, I'd probably go Yoshivas there. Austin says, love the weekly tier list. First live stream. Thank you, Austin. Appreciate it. Tachi2 says, thoughts on T. Higgins? Bench for a few weeks. Yoshivas value goes up for sure. Yoshivas is someone that I'd like to pick up. Again, considering T. Higgins is dealing with a hamstring, that probably will lead to him missing multiple weeks. I don't know if it's just going to be a 1 week thing. So Yoshivas is probably the guy. Otherwise, the other guy is Jermaine Burton on that team. Ricardo Rodriguez says, hey, Andrew, would you drop Eckler, Shakir, or Jamison Williams for Luke McCaffrey? I think I might drop Jamison Williams for him. The other two I think are too valuable at the moment. But here's the thing. Jamison Williams could be more valuable than Luke McCaffrey. If he actually has a deemed role within that offense, great. I don't see that being the case. I don't see that outside of like the volatile plays every other week, not even every other week, maybe 1 out of every 4 weeks he's able to score, on a big play or something of that nature. Great. But ultimately, I do think that Luke McCaffrey may have more value remainder of the season if that slot role is going to be highly utilized. But again, we don't know until we kind of see it against Tampa Bay. LDZ says, Andrew, what's your locks? What are we talking about locks for? Are we talking about underdog locks or must-start players of the week? Start Devontae Smith, Marvin Harrison, Debo, or Olave. I have all 3 of the other receivers over Devontae Smith there, Shelby. You just got too many studs across the board. That's just the blessing and curse that you have. To the Max sent in a super chat. Thank you, To the Max. Says, sup, Andrew. Would you drop any of these players for McLaughlin on a full PPR? I have Baker Mayfield, Dowdle, Brian Robinson Jr., Brian Thomas Jr. As of right now, the only player I would drop is Baker Mayfield, and that's under the assumption that you won't need him at quarterback. If he's your starter, then obviously you got to keep him. But if he's your second quarterback, yes, let's pick up McLaughlin. Because if McLaughlin's going to get himself somewhere close to, last season they targeted their running backs 151 times in Denver. That's in 17 games. That's 8.88 on per game average. So that's 9 targets per game. If he's going to, let's say, for example, get the vast majority of those 9 targets, let's say he's able to get 6 of them on a per week basis, 5 receptions, coupled with 5 or 6 rushing attempts per game, he could very easily be the Tyjae Spears of this season. Which doesn't make him a starter, but it makes him a flexible option. Underdog, bro? Yeah, my plays for today are, I think we went over it earlier. I can go find it right now. Live pick'em. So these are the plays. This is the play that I like the most. Devontae Smith, receptions. Josh Jacobs, rushing touchdown. I also went ahead and threw this one in there just in case because there is the vulture insurance kind of play thing. But otherwise, my favorite plays of the week are these 3. McCaffrey, anytime touchdown. Garrett Wilson over on receptions. And Stroud over on receiving or passing touchdowns, excuse me. Yesterday, we had pretty good luck in terms of, what's his name? Derrick Henry scoring a touchdown. That was definitely something that helped us out. It hit yesterday's bet. But obviously, if I could have taken advantage of the 0.5 Jalen Hurts and I didn't use Travis Kelce yesterday in my overall bet slip, then I would have. But otherwise, it was a $10 play for 48 yesterday, which was great. Ayuk or Ridley? That's a good one. I'm probably leaning towards potentially playing Ayuk there because it's a Monday game. Hey, Andrew, big fan. Appreciate the feedback. Do you think JSN has the ability to break out this season? Of course. Yeah, absolutely. He should be able to take over for Tyreek for Tyler Lockett this season. He should be able to. He's too talented not to. I mean, again, he's a first-round pick. Yeah, he wasn't utilized the correct way last season because, again, he's a rookie, and he was playing against all these, or trying to get reps from these veterans. But I do believe he is the number 2 going forward. I'm trying to read this. What does this say? Steelers update. Russell Wilson undergo workout on Saturday morning to determine his eligibility to start on Steelers heading in the direction of starting Fields. Okay, very well. Keep an eye on that, guys. Cameron says, drop Taysom Hill for Luke McCaffrey. I have Kittle as my tight end. I don't mind it. I mean, again, listen, I'm not saying that Luke McCaffrey is the next best guy. I'm not saying that he's the next Puka, but I'm just saying if you can live with having him on your bench, if he doesn't hit, he doesn't hit. You drop him, no harm, no foul. As long as you're not dropping somebody that's too valuable. In the case of Taysom, I'm okay with that. Juice says, bold prediction, Eagles win by +10, and Love throws at least 1 pick. Interesting. Okay, we'll see how that works. Would you prefer Amari Cooper, Najee Harris, or Chris Godwin / James Cook, says Pachek. Amari Cooper and no, I'd rather have Godwin and James Cook going forward. Gabriel Martin says, Javonte Williams or Ramondre Stevenson in a standard scoring format. In a standard scoring format, I'd feel more comfortable playing Javonte Williams there. Charlene says, thanks, Andrew. Good luck. Thank you. Okay, we took care of that. Where do we have? We have Tex who says, hey, a big fan, Andrew. Appreciate all the feedback. Okay, we already took care of that. We're good to go. Max Block says, Christian Watson or Dobbs tonight? I have Christian Watson ranked higher. Murica says, man, I paid for all of my home FF money leagues last night. One on Henry scoring for his touchdown and Worthy with 25 receiving. Rice on over 100. Okay, so what's the bet tonight, Murica? Huh? Why don't you give us some more plays, brother? Come on. Shackle says, likely or Taysom on the waivers. Drop Ingram or Freiermuth for either. Let's see how they perform. I mean, again, you're not going to be able to pick them up until the waiver wires run on Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. So let's see how these two run. Ingram's not getting dropped. Freiermuth would get dropped if he does not perform to his standard for likely. Let's see here. Would you trade Aaron Jones for Keenan Allen and Chuba Hubbard? Probably not, no. Chuba Hubbard, again, is only going to be as valuable as long as Jonathan Brooks is on the injured PUP list, which won't be for very long. It'll be 4 weeks, then a couple weeks to ramp up, and then it'll be the Jonathan Brooks show. Benjamin says, would you trade... Okay, we already took care of that. $10, paid $600. Okay, so what's tonight's play, brother? That's what I'm saying. Congrats on the play, but come on, let's go. Higgins is out. Should I flex JSN or Chuba? I'd probably play Chuba Hubbard there. Yo, Andrew, great content. Flex. Jordan Addison, Chase Brown, Josh Palmer, or Odunze this week? Probably Addison. It'd probably go Addison, Palmer, Odunze, Chase Brown in that order. Just dumb luck, fam? Got it. Understood. So he doesn't want to share his picks with us. I see. I see how it is. No problem, Max. Okay, so anybody's question? Okay, Freddie, what's up, Freddie? I see Freddie in the chat says, drop Zeke, Spears, or Shakir for Palmer in a 3-wide receiver league. I have Hurts, Henry, Achane, Lamb, Adams, Devontae Smith, and Njoku. I'd be willing to drop Spears, Freddie. I mean, listen, Freddie, you're a Chargers guy. You know that Josh Palmer's capable. You know he is. I'll admit it, I got spooked by Williams and traded Williams and Metcalf for Barkley and JSN. Considering I already am comfortable with the wide receiver position, do you feel... Which Williams are we talking about? Tex. Alfredo says PPR. Yeah, again, I'd rather have the wide receiver there, I think. Especially if you can have value there and then you can trade him away maybe even. No problem, CJ. OxyClean says, should I start Christian Kirk or Jaden Reed? Let me reference my rankings really quickly. I gotta go open them back up. Sorry. Christian Kirk or Jaden Reed? I think it's probably going to be Christian Kirk, especially if it's a full, half or full. I think it's irrelevant. Kirk is there. Reed, yeah, I have Christian Kirk ahead of him. Drop Freiermuth for Taysom now in a half PPR. I don't think you have to. I think Freiermuth is fine. Taysom just has more volatility. That's the issue with him. And I'm comfortable with Freiermuth mainly because if Justin Fields is going to be the quarterback, I mean, we've seen a guy like Cole Kmet be very, very functional in fantasy with Fields. So I have no issue there. Oh, Kyron Williams. Okay, so you traded Kyron Williams and Metcalf for Barkley and JSN. Yeah, I think you overspent a little bit. I think Metcalf and Kyron are probably more valuable, but that's because it's mainly because of the value of Metcalf in comparison to JSN, not because of the differential between Williams and Barkley. I think it's a matter of the difference between JSN and Metcalf. So giving away Metcalf does hurt a lot, I think. Hopefully JSN, of course, is able to close the gap for your sake. Do you like Terry McLaurin this year? Of course, yeah. I mean, I think I like him more than the average. Aaron Jones should retire. I wholeheartedly disagree with that take. Luis Garcia, I mean, he was a monster late last season. Benjamin says, what is the upside of Luke McCaffrey? I thought I was just, learning to play receiver. I think he played receiver last season. He used to be a quarterback, but I mean, Ryan Tannehill used to be a receiver and turned into a quarterback. There's all these players that switch positions. But as of right now, the whole insight that you should be aware of is that he's going to be the primary slot receiver of the Washington Commanders. And there's a lot of value in that, potentially. We'll have to wait and see. Sorry if you talked about this. How do you feel about grabbing Justice Hill? Not so great. I'm not too interested in that. Again, in a PPR, could be a value. He had 8 targets last night. I don't think that's going to be a consistent trend going forward for that offense. Okay, Benjamin. Sorry, we took care of that. Juan says, sorry for the confusion. Who are your top bench holds? Huge upside going into week 1. Boom. Example, Luke McCaffrey. Dowdle for sure. Josh Palmer, Shakir, Curtis Samuel. Who's another tight end? Jonnu Smith. Those are the kind of names. Rashid Shaheed. What else? Xavier Legette, Jalen Polk, those kind of guys. I'm assuming they've already been drafted, though. Burrow or Stafford? Luis Garcia, I'd play Stafford there. L. Washington says, Niners or Seahawks? I'll take the Seahawks defense. Aaron Rodgers or Baker Mayfield, says Cal. I'll take Baker Mayfield there. Should I drop Jameson Williams for Luke McCaffrey? No, I'd probably keep Jameson. Here's the thing. I think both of them have very similar potential for upside. I think Luke McCaffrey, because there's less target competition in place, has more of an advantage. What's your take on Dallas running back situation this year? Both available in my league. You should pick up Dowdle before the game hits this week. Is Fields going to start? I think if you think so, play him or Deshaun Watson in the Superflex. If he does end up starting, I'd probably still play Deshaun. You know what? I probably won't play Deshaun Watson. At that point, I would just pivot to Fields because of the rushing upside. 1 point per reception, Connor or Devontae Smith? I'd play Devontae Smith there this week. No problem, Gamer. Appreciate it. No problem, Pachik. Okay. That's pretty much going to cover it. Ertz can be good too. Of course, he could. Especially, they take on Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay could not stop tight ends last year to save their lives. Additionally, Zach Ertz should be implied as the number 1. Let's just hope that he doesn't look like how Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews looked last night. Because if Ben Sinnott is the guy, he could take over. You never know. That's another one of those guys you might want to have on your bench. Jameson Williams or Romeo Doubs? DeRozan. I would probably play Romeo Doubs today. Do I pick up Rome or Reed or Kirk off waivers? I'd rather, if I'm you, I'm picking up Christian Kirk off the waivers immediately. Dropping Mike Williams. Running backs are available. Are Chuba Hubbard bench was it Charbonnet, Ty Chandler, Gibson, Sanders, Herbert, Benson, Irving, Jamal Quorum, Matt. I mean, look, I pick up Chuba Hubbard. You could even use him in the flex potentially there, Jorge. Kelsey is washed. I hope not. God, please, I hope not. You missed my question a bit there. Where is your question, Rag? Rag says, would you drop Eckler or Spears to stash Jalen Wright? I went hero running back, and at this point, if it's a half PPR, I think dropping Spears would probably lead to him getting picked up, and then Jalen Wright may never come to fruition in terms of value. I'd probably leave it as is. I'd only ever do it if you have, because you said I went hero RB. That implies that your RB2 is not solidified, and you need a rotational matchup guy every week. So I'd keep the Eckler-Spears combo going. All right, guys. Again, thank you everybody for coming out today. I appreciate it. Hopefully I was able to answer every question you guys had. If not able to, tomorrow I'll be back from 1 to 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So we should be good to go. Additionally, I will be back on Sunday morning from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on the channel Sunday morning before kickoff. So if you guys want to swing on by, get your questions answered, get the updated rankings that will be on screen, you're good to go. If you don't want to wake up early, again, you can check out Underdog Fantasy. Using code Andrew today and making a first-time deposit minimum of $10 gets you to claim the potential, first deposit offer where you can take advantage of picks like this. You'll get my rankings every single Sunday morning, half PPR, full PPR, all-encompassing rankings every Sunday morning from my email directly to yours. Typically, I send those out at like 3 or 4 a.m. Yes, I stay up that long prior to, Sunday morning live stream. 2 hours of sleep is typically the normal for Andrew prior to those streams, but that is typically where I'm leaning direction in. And then we might be back later tonight after the game if something crazy happens. Otherwise, Saturday live stream, Sunday live stream, maybe a Sunday night live stream. Then we'll be back Monday for, of course, waiver wire, Tuesday running back, etc. Wednesday wide receiver, tight end, quarterback on Thursday, and we keep it moving. Will says, I have Zach Moss and Chase Brown. Should I drop one of them for Rico Dowdle? Oof, I probably wouldn't. I kind of want to wait and see one. Damn, no, I wouldn't. Even though you're in a position to where you can, it's a matter of predicting correctly, and I'd rather you just have both of them on roster so that you can figure out who the starter is and then go from there. Shackle says, first time trying Underdog after your tutorial tonight. Yeah, let's hope it hits. Let's hope it hits. Man does not sleep. No, not during the season. That's why I hibernate in the off season, ladies and gentlemen, because I do not sleep during the season. All right, guys, that's going to cover it. I appreciate y'all. Enjoy the game. I'm going to cue the music, and I will be back maybe later tonight if something crazy happens. Otherwise, tomorrow afternoon, 1 p.m. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and until next time, I'll see you guys. Peace.